Look at that, look at that. Oh, good, we're ready to go. Good evening, and welcome to the Sherborn Board of Selectmen meeting of March 20th, 2014. If Town Administrator David Williams could read us the draft agenda, please.
Sure. First, we'll vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance. And then public comment period, and then the first item would be Massachusetts Water Resources Authority Sudbury Aqueduct Trail and application for 8M permit, and Planning Board Chair John Higley and Conservation Agent Bridget Graziano are here. 6:30 estimated time. Bob Murchison and Jim Murphy for an update on the Peace Abbey project and a discussion of the possible land swap. After that, the Council on Aging will be in to talk about the Pulte development. After that, appointment of, it's a joint appointment between Board of Selectmen and Water Commissioner for Brian Moore to serve as Water Commissioner in a term expiring May 13th, 2014. Zoning Board of Appeals, there will be a discussion of the appointments to Zoning Board of Appeals. After that, Town Administrator report, consideration of Board of Selectmen positions on town meeting articles, and approval of final warrant for annual town meeting. Talk about upcoming meeting topics, and approval of a one-day liquor license for the Friends of Sherborn Library Trivia Night for Saturday, March 22nd. And then Selectmen reports if there are any, approval of the warrant, and set the next meeting. Then we have an executive session for discussion regarding police lieutenant contract pursuant to GLC 30A, Section 21A2, non-union contract negotiations.
Okay, great. And so what we have printed has, we're not doing the executive session on the cell tower issue this evening. So any amendments to the agenda? Yes, go for it, Paul.
I want to add a agenda item for consideration of establishing a veterans tax write-off program here in Sherborn.
Okay. Would you want to do that, Paul, as part of the warrant, final warrant discussions and town meeting articles
Yes.
down in there? Okay, so we'll include that if anybody objects to that discussion. So I'll take a motion to accept the agenda as amended by Paul.
So moved. Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Great. So that puts us to public comment. If there's any public comment, please feel free to come on up to the microphone. Maybe that's a mistake with Susie, but no, I'm just kidding. Please.
Oh, you can all hear my voice. Susan Tyler, Western Avenue. Just out of curiosity, I know we've done this in the past. I'm seeing in the papers a lot of other towns are advertising already for the cleanup. Are we doing anything in the works for the cleanup of the streets and the residents? Are we going to have bags again this year, or, because now's the time to start planning?
We did not do it last year, but we did. I have started talking to Ed about it, CM&D director, to see what could be done this year.
But as far as for the residents,
Yeah.
getting
right,
out there and getting the bags?
Right, and I believe Paul last year had mentioned it when we didn't do it. So we're trying to plan on it earlier this year. Yeah.
So there'll be more information to follow once you have a sense of that.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Back to my
Good
seat.
question. Very good, please. Thanks. Okay, that puts us right on track at 6:15, unless there's any other public comment. With John Higley and Bridget, please come on up.
Well, we're here to, about the application, the MWRA 8M permit, and this is about the Sudbury Aqueduct, which is an aqueduct that runs from Framingham to Chestnut Hill. And it's, the MWRA has realized that it's an inactive aqueduct, but the property they want to maintain, they will maintain. They have been and will continue, but they realize it's also a terrific regional asset, a trail. And so they've not allowed it to be used as a public trail, but now changed that and said, let's go ahead and do this. It's a terrific regional connection. In our case, it runs from Framingham across Coolidge and then across North Main and then into Natick. There's different things going on with the trail. This permit application is to open up just portions. Framingham has opened up a small portion, Natick has opened up 2 small portions, and the plan is to eventually someday make it open all the way as a local and regional trail. So in this case, we're applying to open up 2 small portions, and Bridget's prepared the application with a map for those 2 portions. One is, and Bridget, stop me if you want to say things better.
Oh, no, I created the map on ArcGIS, and it just notes 2 locations that are not proposed to open, and they're in red, and they're also noted in the legend. And then a green area that's proposed to be open.
We're black and white, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
no red.
it's hard to
Is there something?
see what we're looking at here.
okay, so there is
This is where it says aqueduct, this is where the trail is going to
it's
go.
attachment 1.
I'm not sure we have.
I have this map that's,
That's the only attachment we have. Rick.
yeah.
Well, I can describe it
But
in
it
any
says
case.
aqueduct, I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Is this
Yeah.
part of the package?
But we don't have that.
We
No.
certainly don't have this.
No, you didn't get it?
No?
No. Okay. So-
Well, why don't I describe it?
If you
And-
would,
And the trail crosses Coolidge, and I think it's, if you're approaching Kendall and look over your left shoulder, look west, you'll see a pump house, or it's actually a gatehouse. It's a gatehouse that is made out of brick and granite, same architecture that's at the head of it in Framingham and at the termination in Chestnut Hill. Chestnut Hill is called the Waterworks Museum, and it's a museum about the whole trail. It's an engineering marvel. I think it drops 1 foot a mile. But that gatehouse is architecturally interesting. It is part of this engineering marvel. So we propose opening up the trail to that gatehouse from Coolidge. So it would be at Coolidge going west to the gatehouse. The other portion of the trail we're talking about opening is on North Main, where you're familiar with the recreation fields. At Laurel Field, when you drive in and look off to your right, you see a big steep hill. Well, that's the big steep hill going up to the aqueduct. And we're proposing, so if you orient yourself where that big steep hill is going east, where that crosses North Main, we're talking about opening up that portion from North Main east. So if you were going north on North Main, Route 27, it would be on your right,
Yeah.
So the issues here are that the entire line is actually owned in fee by MWRA. However, these 2 portions that we're not planning to open are portions that travel through businesses where they're concerned about disruption or vandalism. One being Sunshine Farm and the other one being Sassamon Trace. So John and I were looking to work with both of these businesses for a workaround trail. So eventually there will be a contiguous trail, just won't be directly through these
So you
businesses.
come off of the aqueduct or in some fashion, or
Something.
who knows what yet to be
Yeah.
done. So the green is the trail that you're proposing? The open part of the trail is what's green? Okay, this little bit?
The dash,
And that little
yeah.
dash.
Yeah, the area not to be opened is a double dash.
Is Framingham and Natick's portion open?
Portions of them are.
small
Do they
portion,
connect to our portions?
not yet.
So, I mean, is this premature until there's actually a trail to be had? This looks like
Yeah.
a piece that goes through the backyard of everybody on Meadowbrook or goes
Yes.
behind their house. And then it looks like it stops at the Dow's property and then it picks up, it crosses the busiest street in town, and then it goes into a swamp and ends. And I guess I mean, not to, I mean, I think it's great, and I've actually walked part of that not knowing it wasn't open to the public, so.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if we need more planning to make that useful, or if we're, inviting problems by doing it piecemeal like this.
Yeah, the history of trail making is, if you wait for it to be all organized, it'll never happen. And so trails trails become connected and complete by taking the pieces as you can get them. And it's clear, these are pieces, it's already mowed. It's not there's no work to make it into a trail in that sense. So the pieces that we're proposing, they're already there. And as you walked them, others have walked them. There are places that need some attention. We have to figure out the workarounds. But also there's some brook crossings that we may want to, if we don't go around them, we may need a little bridge or something. MWRA has indicated they might be able to help us with that. The real issue to make this a more useful trail immediately is road crossing. And that's stuff we haven't worked on yet, but that's to be done. It's part of for the permit, for the trail to be open. First we get a permit, but for the trail to be opened, we have to figure out how to make it a safe crossing. So that work needs to be done, but it doesn't mean we can't say this is going to be part of the trail. All we're doing now with this permit is saying we're going to make this into a trail. We won't open it until we've addressed issues.
The MWRA did encourage us to move forward with our permit. They've called our offices a couple times, just for every reason that John said, just to get it in motion.
Is the golf course part of that's in Sherborn, is that right? I did not know that. Oh, okay. That's a little bit right in there, yeah. So are we, in this, there's some typos and stuff like that in this application that I can share later offline or whatever. But are we taking on an obligation, for instance, we have a use plan, that this right-of-way will continue to be maintained in its current condition? By whom?
MWRA.
By MWRA, because
Yes.
it's not clear, whether that's them or us. And the bridges, again, by whom the town of Sherborn plans to provide signage, street crosswalks, and bridges where needed. So that's yet to be determined. The cost and the payment of the funding of that cost is yet to be determined.
Correct.
But you're still applying, but we're making a commitment that that's going to be done with this application.
Well, you
Do
don't
we-
have to open the trail, but the idea is that.
We're saying we plan to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, right.
All right. And again, maintain typical maintenance program by the MWRA. So we're saying that they're going to do it, I guess. Trails will be open from dawn till dusk. Does that put a policing burden on us, or anything?
Not more than any other trail.
Yeah. I mean, I get you. You want to get this in there, get the permitting so that at least people can enjoy it, because it's a resource that's sitting there waiting to be enjoyed that technically.
Yeah, the
shouldn't be.
long-term view of this is it'll be a long regional trail that will connect.
Yeah.
Was there notice to any of the abutters? Is anybody, or is this just the first stage, so you don't have to do that?
We've had some conversations with some abutters, but that needs to be done.
Yeah.
All that needs to be done.
So my 2 cents is that I support trails in Sherborn. There's quite a network of trails. I think it's an important amenity for the community. I think adding to the trail network is an important expansion of amenities in the community. This is already here in our town. There are some, such as Mike Giano, who have already been using this amenity.
He just dropped a dime on you.
But people should be able to use it lawfully. And it's the kind of thing that I think we could tuck some money into the next bond bill at the State House, and like we did for the rail trail, and have some money earmarked for this project. If I knew what the amount was, I could get to work on that. So I'm all in favor of this, and as I read this, this is just simply getting the permission of the landowner to make use of this. It doesn't mean that we're going to make use of it. It doesn't mean all these plans are going to come to fruition. I'm very much aware that the rail trail that we've been working on in the western part of town has been going on for 10 years, maybe 15 years.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been discussing it forever. So I would suspect this is the first discussion that's going to be a multi-year discussion before we actually get to the point of having a trail.
We
So
started working on this 2 years ago before I went on maternity leave.
What's the term of this permit, John? Is it an indefinite term, revocable at will, or?
Irrevocable at will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a license.
And you're looking for David to be the signatory on this.
Right. Right.
Town administrator.
And there's a small $100 fee.
So I move approval and that we spend $100.
That's what's going to fall apart, right?
Yeah,
I'll second.
I
I'll
second.
second.
Any further discussion? I see some discussion in the back there.
Yeah, hi, Susan Tyler. I'm looking at the MWRA site, and I'm looking at their general permit conditions. Permittee shall bear all costs and expenses of operation and maintenance of the area subject to the 8M permit, and the permittee shall not incur at the expense. Permit, it says that we're going to be responsible for the development and operation of the trail systems, including coordination with the abutting owners and stakeholders. It says that we're responsible for the collection and removal of all trash and other debris. We're responsible for signage. They tell you what wording, what signage, so there's a lot of cost that's going to have to go into this, a lot of questions. And one of the other first questions I have, if you're going to take that short distance from Coolidge Street to the pump house, gatehouse, where are you going to park? Where are you proposing all these people to park?
Middlebrook Road.
But I'd have to ask as far as the maintenance, because this is the general permit conditions from the MWRA site. This is what Framingham had to go through.
Well,
We
can I-
can look at Framingham and look at their permits.
Can I suggest that
Thank
at this point, we're not opening a trail, so the problem of maintaining litter is one that's going to be 5, 10, maybe 15 years down the road, and at that point, we can decide how to handle it. At this point, we're only opening the door so that you can go forward and explore further. Moreover, my recollection of these permits are, if we decide we're not going to do it in a future time, we can get out of it. It's not like we're walked into this, and it's not irrevocable on our part. We don't want to do it, we send them a letter, we're out.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Great. Thanks for working on this. And here's your sheet back.
If you want it, you can keep it.
Yeah, we should keep it.
We'll keep it.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
That way you know how to get there.
That's right, I know where to go. People tell me all the time. Okay, that puts us right at 6:30, and we got Bob Murchison and Jim Murphy. And this is the Jim Murphy attorney at law as opposed to Jim Murphy exemplary resident of Sherborn. Volunteer
It's the
extraordinaire.
necktie, you can tell. When he's on duty, it's a necktie.
Yeah.
But hi, Jim. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'm sure that's not
James
Mason
Murphy,
Street.
James Murphy, there you go.
PO 1327, otherwise a resident of 44 Bear Hill Road. Thank you for seeing us tonight. This is about the Abbey Road project. I'll just give you a little summary of where we've been, where we are now, what we want tonight, and where we are going. So just where we've been, just a lot of people might not recall this, but we certainly do. Last town meeting, 2000 town meeting, we came before the town and had two articles passed at town meeting, Articles 14 and 15. Article 14 allowed this property to be rezoned from single-family to EA zoning in order for us to, the client, to construct 18 age-restricted units on the former Peace Abbey property. In order to do that, we needed a minimum of 6 acres of property. We had slightly less than that, so Article 15 authorized the town to enter into a swap with us of additional land. We'll give back some, and they'd give some to us. And that was also passed at town meeting. And we had a preliminary sketch of it, which was contained in the package presented at town meeting. I have the copies of that here in case you need to see it, but I think it's
We all
been
have it.
sent by Diane earlier today. Thank you, Diane. What has happened since last town meeting is that we have done what anybody in Sherborn would have to do, which is investigate and do your due diligence on water and septic. So water, we almost immediately went to see the DEP, and we confirmed with them that if we set up 3 wells, each well to supply 6 of the 18 units, that we could treat this as private wells and not need to go through a public well process. And DEP has given us the guidelines to do that, so we know how that works. Once that was settled, we then went and met with the Board of Health, and we went through a process of siting the on-site septic disposal plant. That took some time, but we ultimately did get a conditional approval to site the plant. Now, as you probably know, if you're in Sherborn, the siting of a septic relies on the soils and also on, in this case, a slight alternative technology. But we were able to site the plan up here in this corner. And once it's sited, that tells us what our setbacks are. And once it tells us where our setbacks is, it tells us how we should alter our plan so that we can get the land and we have all the land that we need to meet all those setbacks. So now that we have that part, we're coming to the board because we now can tell you what it is that we propose to be swapped. There are two very slight differences from before to now, and those two differences are this little bump right here, which is related to the placement of the septic. Otherwise, it was fairly straight before. And the second was to take the land all the way out to Village Way instead of there being an easement of a small amount. That seemed to make more sense to do it that way. You'll remember as part of the plan, it would be the private property owner who would be ultimately responsible for that roadway in off of Village Way into the 18-unit complex. So the other thing that happens is that we slightly alter what it is that's given back. And what happens here is there's a nice, more regular amount right along the North Main Street. And we recognize that that was valuable to the town, particularly for any future uses that they may have or want as this property leads to the downtown.
Can I ask you a question on just
Sure.
that? What's missing on the drawing that I had was the dimension on that. I couldn't tell whether that was 2 feet or
My memory,
what?
my memory calls it 10 feet, but that is to scale, so if we threw a tape on it, we could...
I want to be sure it's wide enough so that we can actually put the
I guess
sidewalk
the
there.
way I would answer that is that if it's not, I'm happy to provide an easement so that it is. I am very much in favor of the town putting a
If it's 2
sidewalk.
feet, those units are only 6 feet.
Yeah, no,
So I suspect
it's
10.
10 feet, I believe. That's my memory.
But I think what Bob said is that in any of the places in which there isn't a fee interest, that the town needs something for an easement interest to complete what they want, then we can accommodate that. We anticipate that in the whole process, if in fact there is an identified thing as we go through this with town council, with the 30B process, we'll identify all those things, we'll put all those things in there. We very much anticipate it's going to be an integrated project with adjoining Woodhaven project and then right into downtown. It really is what makes this site really attractive, I think, not only to the owner, but also to ultimately to the residents and to the other townspeople.
Yeah, the sidewalk is quite important.
Yeah, just to comment one thing further on that. We're not swapping any land from where that purple ends to Village Way. Well, we don't own it all the way to Village Way, to the cemetery corner. And that's because we have to have frontage.
Setbacks, I think it's setbacks.
Well, no, we have to have frontage in order to have a development. You have to have frontage on the road.
Right.
But isn't there a sidewalk there already?
No.
Oh, well,
Oh, wait a minute.
we need to have a continuous sidewalk there, so...
And I'm saying that we are absolutely in favor of that, and we're willing to provide an easement.
So on that part of it, I think what he's trying to make clear is to the extent that there's some need here for the town, then it's going to have to be in the form of an easement, not a fee.
Because we need frontage.
But can we put that in as part of this? I mean, to me, it's material.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A sidewalk that goes to nowhere doesn't accomplish what I want to accomplish. So can we put in the paperwork somewhere that there'd be a easement for a part of it and a ownership for the rest as part of this, as part of the consideration for the land swap?
Yes.
Yeah, we
I think
absolutely.
we had that in the, what was voted on at the town meeting last year.
I think it was-
there a sidewalk easements
It wasn't
mentioned,
generic,
or
but
maybe
it
I'm
can be.
mistaken? Yeah, no, I understand, yeah.
I think the concept of easements that integrated the piece as a whole was perfectly acceptable and
Yes.
can be put in there. So where we are now, as I said, is that we're seeking to have the 30B16 process activated. And what that means is that in order, when there is going to be either a disposal or acquisition of town-owned property, you have to follow the procurement statute, which in this case is 30B16, and it requires a process of putting an advertisement out, soliciting requests for proposals. The proposals can contain that the person who will do this will swap back your land and will provide easements, so it's likely that you'll only get one bidder, but that's still the process that you have to follow. And so what we're really looking for is a vote tonight for you to authorize the town administrator and town council to go forward and comply with 30B16 as it relates to this proposal. We'll happily assist town administrator and town council or anybody else who you direct. And once that happens, we're going to continue on our process. Right now, we are, just to give you again where we are right now, the Board of Health requires for projects of this size an environmental health impact report, so we have to put that together for them. We're working on that right now. That gets peer reviewed by consultants that we pay for the town to peer review our environmental health, which is really the water and the septic. Once that gets approved by the Board of Health, then we have to apply for another permit from the planning board. The planning board does a site plan review as well as an overall development plan, and then once that gets done, then we have all our permits and we can begin the process. So, as I said, what I'm looking for tonight is action by the board to authorize the 30B16 process. We recognize also the part of the town meeting vote, which is very important, which was if this doesn't go anyplace, despite all the best intentions on both sides of all these tables, is that then everything reverts back, if in fact it occurred. But we're not thinking that's going to happen, but it's certainly something that was in the vote at town meeting, which again, we gladly accept in this process.
Jim, can I ask some
Go ahead.
questions? So just for clarity, I asked Diane to get us copies of this thing from last year, but the copies we got don't show the full, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's just to get a better delineation of what's changed. And my recollection was that part of the, you say, well, why do we want that sliver of land? Well, one of the purple slivers, or whatever you might call that color, hooks up to a walkway from Woodhaven, if I'm not mistaken, and then, or could hook up to walkway from Woodhaven and then come out to the potential sidewalk that comes out on North Main. Is that a fair statement?
There was a concept that there would be a way to get from Woodhaven down to the street. It is never actually in place now. It's not,
Yes.
but it's certainly something that we want. We really do anticipate that once this is developed, that there are going to be walkways that are on our property, I'll call it our property, it's Bob's property, and the town's property, and that are going to be freely used by both. It enhances them and enhances us. It's a, the classic win-win.
Okay, so the other change in the green, you got little loops that are closer to circles that I presume represent Woodhaven leach fields.
That's their well shield.
Well shields, okay.
So
So you go right up to the edge a little bit more.
Right, so if you look closely on it, you'll see that there's a Zone 1 circle
Yeah.
that is in the inside of this here,
Yeah.
and then there's another one that goes here. So those are the ones that happen there.
Are those supposed to be circles, Jim? They're not drawn as circles, I guess I'm wondering.
Now, what happens is, well, again, it's, we did it right down to as close as we could. So this part is an arc of a circle. So this part does contain one of the arcs of one of the circles. This part contains the arc of another circle. it also, it almost goes all the way up to here. We didn't have to go quite as far there. So this part is a little bit of an arc of a circle, and this part is a little bit of an arc of a circle.
Okay, now let me ask you, I was asking one of my favorite former zoning board chairs.
Geez, I don't know, I've been ex-staff this now?
No. And you're also one of them. What was the question of the town's right-of-way, where that ends and where this property, so presumably it ends at the lower side of the purple. Is that a fair statement, where there's some dotted lines?
Where
The town's
That Main
normal right-of-way exists, where it ends.
Okay.
And your client's, Bob's property line begins.
where the white meets the purple down here,
Yeah.
and where the white meets this black line, below the line is
Is
the
town
town's,
right-of-way, okay.
and above is ours.
Okay, good, that's good, that's helpful. And so I understand this, the moving forward here on this 30B process makes great sense. When we've seen, some procedures of what's involved as well, for me, it doesn't come every day, so I have to see it and understand it. But when I look at it, I say, there may be costs involved, and then it begs the question, at whose cost is it? Because I don't believe we budgeted for those types of costs, for example. Somehow we have to figure out what that all means, an estimate of what the costs are, and at whose cost to do this process. And presumably the burden's on us as you look at us smiling and say, yes, please, move to go
Well,
forward on that.
I guess what I would say.
But I have to ask that question.
I know you have to
understand?
ask it. I just would have you recognize a little bit of what happens to the general fund because of the
I understand.
process so far. In other words, money has been put into the general fund
Yeah, yeah.
for
Yeah.
the Board of Health well permits,
Yes.
for the Board of Health septic
You've been
permits, for
Feed
the
out the, quite well.
for the
feed. I
EHIR
understand that,
and
yeah.
for the planning board process. So we have put up many fees, of course,
What some towns will do is they'll have the developers pay a fee to obtain the bid package.
Uh-huh.
And you would look at it, review it, and accept it if you wanted to. If you didn't accept it, then you'd have to go out and incur that expense yourself. Or it could be done internally by an assessor if you accepted it from a realtor.
Yeah. So I just say that, I don't know what, you guys are more expert at that sort of thing.
We're talking about the
Yes.
price of an appraiser. Part of the 30B process is the land has to be appraised on both sides. We have to compare the two. And the options for us are, we go out and we hire an outsider, independent outsider, or we try to have it done internally in some sense. But either way, it might cost some money to do that appraisal. So I think what the chair is trying to figure out is, how much is that going to cost, and where is the money coming from? That's basically where he's going from. Do we have any idea how much this will cost?
If you went out and hired an appraiser, it could be $1,500 to $3,000, I would guess. If it was a professional appraiser, depends on how much they put into something like
Well,
that.
I guess, I mean, maybe it's a lawyer overreading a sentence, but it doesn't say an appraisal. It says that the governmental body shall determine the value of the property through procedures customarily accepted by the appraising profession as valid.
Right.
So for this, since it is the exchange of excess land, I would inquire of people in the assessing field whether or not it's a valid procedure to do something internally through the assessors as opposed to something that would be more normal if you were acquiring, for example, an abutting property to town hall, in which you would certainly only be able to do that with an appraisal as opposed to a procedure customarily accepted by the appraising profession.
Yeah, no, I think, we're going to move forward on this, and we'll get to that shortly, but there are still unknowns in terms of how best to do that and what the costs are, and the cost may influence the process by which we go forward on the various steps that need to be taken. At least that's the way I see it at this stage, and we don't know enough yet because we haven't really turned the switch and started down the road here. to know what all is involved, so that's really where I'm at. But I'm happy to take a motion to move forward on
Let me
30B.
ask you a
unless
question on
further
that, Peter, which
thought.
is, I mean, and I don't recall the wording of the town meeting vote, but was the vote to do a land swap, sort of an even land swap? Is that the idea?
It was never going to be an even.
Yeah, that's why I don't know that.
Well, in other words, was there supposed to be additional consideration besides?
Well, it was to follow the procedures of 30B.
Right. All I'm pointing out is if you were going to buy a property, the appraisal would be of value in terms of whether you paid too much. If you're going to swap two pieces of property, something they don't need for something we don't need, I don't see an appraisal as particularly useful to the town. I mean, it might not be useful to either side. In that
Right.
case, the town meeting has been comfortable with the idea that we would do a swap like this to allow them to.
Yeah, I don't know that, at least
So I
I
would
never
urge
had the
David
expectation.
to take,
Yeah.
however creative a reading he can
Well,
within the limits of the law to avoid unnecessary costs.
Basically, you have to determine the value in a defensible way. And that would be
Right.
using the common practices, so an assessor can do it, a realtor can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we
First
figure out a way to
step
do it
is
that
to find out.
doesn't, cost.
I mean,
an arm and a leg.
we could do that and bring it to you, and then you don't have to accept it. You can kick it back and go to the next step. if you wanted.
Well,
Or you could-
I don't think we need to decide that issue. Let's do this in sequence. I mean, are we going to go forward with the next step? If we are, we need a vote to authorize him to start the process.
That's,
That's why I like to see.
surprisingly, I don't need any authorization to do that. What you need to vote is to dispose of that property. That would be the vote.
So we have to do that now to start that process?
What
You have
exactly?
you have to vote to identify the property that you want to dispose of
surplus.
in order, yeah.
Well, I'll move that we identify the area in green on that drawing as the property that we are going to seek to dispose of following 30B.
That land is in the Board of Selectmen's custody, David? Okay. So I'll second that motion.
Good. Any further discussion on that?
Well, I'm looking at Attorney Murphy to see if that's okay. Is that
I do think so, because it does start the process, and if we have to come for a shorter slot another time, then we can do that, because then we'll all have a little bit more information. I would point out that one of the touchstones in 30B is 25,000, so,
For the value that triggers.
the
certain
triggers
things.
a lot of
Yes, I
things. So,
understand.
a lot of ways, this is going to be under that, and also, there's also ways under 30B in which the authority, in this case the BOS, can satisfy that they didn't need to do certain things by saying the reasons why they didn't have to do some of these things.
You would
So,
have to advertise in the state register why you didn't continue with the RFP
Right.
process and chose to accept it because you determined its value to be only useful to the butters and less than $25,000.
Look, I think we determined this project is good for the town, and the town has voted already in favor of it by more than a two-thirds vote at the 2013 town meeting. So the motion here is to get this process moving and not to put up obstacles and make it more complicated than it needs to be. To the extent that we can simplify it, we want to do that. So this seems like the motion is before us, is the motion that will kick this thing off.
Yeah.
okay.
Good,
If
so
we
we'll
need
take a
another
vote.
motion, we'll come
We
to
have a
another
motion,
time.
it's been seconded, all in favor?
I mean, is there another motion you think we do need?
Well, I thought we need to authorize David, but I think he said that he has the
He said
authority
yes.
to do it, so that's good enough for me, and then, we'll keep on going forward, and
The town has authorized us to dispose of the property. We just voted to declare it surplus and put it up for disposition, and
Right.
David's our procurement officer,
Right.
so I think we're on the right track.
I think we are.
The
So thank you.
acquisition, I don't know if you need a vote yet to, there's another process to acquire property. But I don't know if you need a specific vote to declare the type of property that you're looking to acquire to allow people to bid on that.
Is that what you're looking for?
I think, look, I'm looking at this, and it does say that the governmental body has to solicit proposals in connection with acquisition as well. So if you, again, maybe belt and suspenders a little bit here, is to have a motion to acquire.
So moved.
Move to acquire the land
Purple.
in purple and authorize David to institute the procedures under law necessary to acquire that land in purple.
Okay, any discussion? I see one hand. Elliot? Well, your hand's
I
up.
want to amend my motion as well, if that's okay. Do you want Elliot to talk first?
Go
or-
first.
I want everyone, the selectmen, our administrator, everyone in Sherborn, to go down to this property and look at the idiotic statues and plaques that are there and supposedly will be there for
Elliot.
eternity. And I think before any big projects go on this property, those plaques should get out of there. They're not part of Sherborn, they're an insult to our intelligence, and I think those plaques and statues should be gone, and then we can start talking about it.
Well, that's private property.
Yeah, so
We have a motion.
amend my motion to also authorize that you solicit proposals for the easement along the frontage there to complete a sidewalk plan.
Yes. Acquire all property interests necessary to have a sidewalk, maybe modifying the motion, to have a sidewalk going from
The frontage of the property and the frontage.
across the frontage of the property on North Street. So with that friendly amendment, I second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
You got that, Diane? Okay.
Got all that? You watched the tape. You watched the tape. All right, anything else we can do for you, gentlemen? Is that,
No, thank you very much, we appreciate the
Thank you.
support,
Thank you.
and
Yeah. hang in there.
Thank you. Thanks for, this is a good project.
All right. Okay, that puts us pretty much right on schedule for the next part. We've been requested by the Council on Aging to keep in mind we have 20 minutes. Keep in mind we don't have alternative viewpoints to whatever you may be talking about. Keep in mind we're not here to weigh in on the merits of anything ourselves.
We are not asking you to weigh in. This is strictly informational, to bring you up to
Appreciate
date
information.
what the board is thinking about, the package. And I am going to just go off topic very quickly since I am clear. The Council on Aging was awarded a $500 grant from our friends down the street at Santander Bank. And I am asking the selectmen to approve that.
So moved.
Okay.
Which might tell us what it's for.
It was,
She's trigger happy.
She looked at me for a moment.
it was a grant that's given to an organization in the community to use for programming and to assist seniors in town. And we were very happy to get that from our friends down the street.
So I move that we accept the grant from.
So this says use the funds to only support low and moderate income individuals and communities. Is that the type of support that it's for, or?
Yes, but because it's a senior group, we have a little bit more flexibility than a grant just for low and moderate income. So we will be using that for programming, so we're very thankful for that.
All right, well, I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the acceptance? All in favor? Great.
Great.
Okay,
right.
what else you got?
Okay, as you folks know, Pulte Homes has approached the town of Sherborn with a proposal to do over 55 housing. The board has listened to them make their proposal. We have been in dialogue back and forth with them in terms of what we feel the needs of our community are, in terms of housing type, price points, and as far as the actual layout of the property. They have made some modifications based on our input, which we were very happy to note. And because the Board of the Council on Aging is interested in helping seniors in town with housing as one of the options and to maintain their independence in the community, the board voted support for this. We took a road trip because we wanted to see Pulte properties. We wanted to see what they were like. We wanted to see their layouts and their designs. And in addition to the Council on Aging Board, Kitty Sturgis joined us, as did Yvonne from the Assessor's Office, John Higley came, Tom Ernston came, and the majority of the Council on Aging Board. It was open to the residents. Anyone in town could have come, but it was an interesting trip. It took about 2.5 hours. We went up to their Bedford location as well as their Acton location, and I know some folks here want to talk about that. So we'll give them the opportunity in a minute, but I want to pass it over to Sheila because she'll talk to you about a little bit more of the background in terms of senior needs based on our survey.
As you can see in front of you, Karen is giving you a list of all the residents of Sherborn and the amount of seniors that we have. And the percentages, there's a pie chart there. As you can see, the amount of seniors in town is growing. And this is the pie chart. So basically, the seniors have a little bit more than a quarter of the green and the orange of the seniors, from 55 and up. Our board feels as though an over 55 development there will be important to the town. There's many seniors that want to stay in the town. They don't want their large homes. They don't want the taxes are of course high. So a smaller place for them would be a great place to move to. As Karen said, Pulte approached the town on a piece of land up on Maple Street, which seems to be a perfect location. It's set back off the road. It's not going to be really visible from any of the abutters. They have been very, very cooperative with us. You know, we went to them and said the units. A lot of our board felt that the price point was too high. Could they do anything about lowering the price point? Maybe putting in duplexes. They changed their whole design to include 22 duplexes and lower the price point. They changed it so the majority of the units all have backyards facing into the woods rather than facing into each other. The trails were an important part. They redesigned it so that they could keep the trails, the existing trails that are there. They added all new trails. They have different options for an emergency egress unit. Let's see, that's probably about it. The location, as I said, it seems to be a perfect place in town. We are looking for your consideration. And if you have any concerns, to come with us. Maybe we can do with Pulte in trying to get things straightened out with them. They've been very cooperative with us. And we are holding a town meeting on April 17th at the community center. For anybody who has any questions, can come. And they will be presenting their whole development. And then after that, there'll be a question and answer period. So anybody who has any concerns or anything can bring them forward at that time.
When's that again?
On April 17th at 7 o'clock at the community center. Right. And there'll be representatives from each one of our boards. Hopefully that'll be there also to answer any questions of anybody. And I'm going to give it over for a couple of minutes to Ann Mercury, who came on the tour with us to the facility in Avon, just to speak about how we all felt about it.
Right. Yes, I went on the field trip to Bedford and Acton, and I'd like to compare what might happen in Sherborn more to Acton than to Bedford.
Why don't you come up to the mic so everybody can hear you at home?
Yes, I'd like to compare what we saw in Acton to what might occur in Sherborn. When we came into the property, we came from an intersection of 119 and 227. We could not see the property at all. When we got there, it gave me the feeling of a village of old, you know, when people lived close together so that they could walk to the store and walk to their friends' houses and so forth. It was not a scene that I found uncomfortable with. We toured 3 houses. There were 3 different designs. I don't know that more than that there may be, but we went into 3 different houses that were model homes that were furnished. All of them had different floor plans. As far as I could see, they were very well built. I wish that I were able to assess at a deeper level of quality of construction, but I was not. But I feel that should any development such as this occur in Sherborn, that if our building inspectors would make sure that things were built as they should be, and then after that, that the condominium association would make sure in their own self-interest that everything was maintained as it should be. As far as the landscaping goes, I think as Sheila said, all of the houses as in the plan for Sherborn would be looking out on woodland. It would be completely surrounded by woodland. We would not see it from Maple Street, and therefore, if anybody passing along would not see anything different than they would see on any other street in Sherborn. I think this is something that is needed for our seniors, as Karen made clear. The houses inside have different floor plans, but they're all open with adequate space for two people, and as far as I can see, would be very comfortable living. So, in short, I came back from our field trip feeling very positive about this, particularly since this is something that Sherborn seniors have said in our survey that they want. 71% of the people who answered our survey, and there were a very large number who did, said that they would at some time, either now or in the future, want to have housing such as this available in Sherborn so that they can stay in Sherborn, and that's the important thing. Stay in Sherborn, not go to some other community on our borderlines, but stay in our own community where we have our friends, we have our churches, we have everything that we've been with for so many years. And I'm talking from the standpoint of somebody who's been here in Sherborn for 52 years and has seen a great deal of change and has come to the conclusion that change is inevitable, but we can do it in a way that doesn't ruin our community. And I favor this. So.
Thanks for your sharing your thoughts.
Just 2 points. The survey that Ann was talking about was a survey that was taken 2 years ago on Election Day, and we passed out 500 survey cards to all the people that came in to vote. And we passed out cards, so 500 of those were returned back to us that day. And of those, 362, there's actually 512 came back, 362 people in the community voted yes, that they would like to see an over 55 development in town. And from the price points were from $450 to over $1 million. And the majority of the people said they were interested in the $450 to the $750 range. So, and Pulte has tried to keep that down into that range. And we just hope that you guys will consider it. And, if you have any questions of us, please feel free to ask.
This is yours or theirs?
That is theirs, and that is actually on our website, on the SherbornDown.org website. There is a link to that. That gives you all the information for the project, with the price points, the square footages, the design. So anybody can take a look at that right on the SherbornDown.org website.
You may not have done
Is there anybody else that wants to go?
Congratulations on 50 years in Sherborn.
Yes.
52.
52,
Newcomer.
Well done.
You vote for him every time he's run.
Newcomers.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, appreciate it. I know that
Appreciate your time.
there may be some folks here who came to hear what we had to say, and we have 5 more minutes, so I'd certainly allow for that conversation to the extent there's a yes.
Tom Hermston, Hollis Street. I have a question. I thought the survey indicated that the majority of the respondents were interested in a price range of 500 and lower. So my question to the COA is, has there been any, apart from the duplexes, has there been any response to the need for a lower price point that Sherborn is expressing, notwithstanding what the rest of the world thinks they're able to afford?
Well, they put the duplexes in with the intentions of keeping them at a lower price point.
But low enough to satisfy, to be within the range of the majority of the respondents.
At this point, the lowest price point they've got is $550, which is on their, in their packet. And we have not gotten to going lower than that, but we can certainly approach them and say that, there are people in town that feel as though they would like that lower than that if that's possible.
They have said it's possible?
No, they have not. I'm saying we can approach them to see if it is possible.
Okay, to make this project relevant to Sherborn, I think that would be a critical question and answer to get. Thank you.
Great. Gentleman in the front, and then I'll get to you. Yes, sir. Go.
That's you, Doug.
You're a gentleman, Doug.
There's a few left.
Little problem with the years. Just to respond to Tom, I have felt that it's very important that they be at a lower price level than they have come in at, because based on our survey, certainly it indicates that the most demand would be in that 450 to 550 range. And so it's my intention as a board member of the COA to make that very as clear as I can to them and express to them that we feel they really should have some of those units at a lower price. There are a lot of people, the median price is $750 or something like that, and seniors don't want to trade up. They want to trade down at a lower price, and I think it's necessary to make it attractive to seniors in Sherborn that they have that price at a better level.
Great.
So I intend to pursue that.
All right. I'm Marianne Deutsch on Prospect Street. I want to get a little clarification. You said that you think that this project, the Holder project, would be ideal for seniors in the same way that you saw in Acton. We just saw a presentation of the Abbey Road project, which I thought was rightfully greeted enthusiastically. It's well designed, and it has tremendous access. People can walk to churches, walk to town center, etc. The problem with the site on Maple Street is that there is not that walking access at all. Its farthest reach is over a mile from town, and the seniors would have to drive. And once they can't drive, they're isolated there. So I don't think it's an ideal location, although I totally support the need for elderly housing, and I appreciate your concern about the lack of it. Sure.
With regards to the location, I mean, within the town limits, I don't know where you're going to find an area large enough to build a unit. They're talking, I believe, it's 66 units.
Right. So the question becomes, will they sell quickly enough for?
Well, if you look at other towns, many other towns have built over 55 communities. None of them are in town centers or anywhere near town centers. But there's enough within having just the community itself and having people and closer neighbors that draw people to the units. It's not just being in town. And so, I mean, even senior centers, people, they're building senior centers that are nowhere near the center of town. They're out in the middle of nowhere, in different towns. So I don't think it needs to be in the center of town. It's nice, and if people really want that, they can go to the Abbey Road development. But I don't think, my father himself had lived in a over 55 community in Connecticut. He was nowhere near the town. He could not drive, he could not walk to the town center. But for him, it was perfect, and he loved it. Just having other neighbors close by was really, what he was looking for.
Okay, I just gave Karen a 2-minute warning, so I'll take 2 more quickly.
Okay, so, and I would just like to address that very good topic of public transportation for seniors or for anybody in town. With the additional income of the taxes that we'll be reaping through, if this development hopefully does go through, that might be a very good question to address about transportation for seniors once they can't drive anymore. Maybe we should put some of those dollars toward that, in that direction.
Okay, Susie?
Apropos of the price point, I think we need to remember that these are condos, and condos have condo fees. I think you'll find, if you look at the condo fees in some similar projects in surrounding communities, that they're pretty high, and they vary from $500 to $900. That's
I
a
believe they
hit.
have in that packet on the website, it does, I believe, address the condo fees, and if I'm remembering, they're somewhere in the $200 to $300 range. So they're not
And you hope
extravagant.
that is enough to accomplish what Anne says she trusts that the association will continue to accomplish. And I just leave you with that thought, is that when people buy condos, they don't always add up all the costs.
These fees that are
Yeah, Cal, I just realized, I can break my rules. Did I see a gentleman in the back there with your hand up? Quickly, no, I guess.
I did have my hand
Yeah.
up. My name is Rick Antel, 29 McGregor Drive. And this project was compared to Acton, and I did look at Acton. And I'm sure in some ways it's comparable, but there's also a golf course, a 9-hole golf course in Acton. There's also, I believe it's some sort of club where you can go swimming. So I really do see that as a community.
But that's not part of the development. That's a separate club with a separate clubhouse that you have to join.
If I can finish.
Okay.
It's accessible. You would have to join, but it is accessible. It's walking distance from the community. So it would offer some things that are very proximate to that community. So I get the comparison, but I also think it's not a good comparison in that respect.
Okay, thanks. Karen, last word.
Sure, just two things. One, as far as transportation, the Sherborn Council on Aging does have a transportation system in place. So looking down the road, if seniors were to buy in there, they certainly would have transportation options to get them around. Secondly, as far as the condo fees goes, we did discuss that with them, and you should be, I was very pleased to find out that the condo fees in Acton actually went down this year because of their negotiation. So while people say condo fees go up and up and up, that's not true. It's based on the skill of your negotiation with the servicers that you want. And finally, as far as the quality goes, I looked at a lot of over 55 housing. My husband is in the business as well, and these were very well constructed. They had steel beams in the basement. All the finishing touches were very, very nice, and I think it would be a good move for sure.
And we looked at duplexes, and you couldn't hear anything in those units. It was very, very quiet.
Thank you.
You couldn't even hear the people who were upstairs when you were downstairs.
Now, just a reminder, folks, advisory has a public hearing all day Saturday. This is item 30 of the warrant articles, I think, so it will be at the end of the day, if they, whatever length of day that is, if they get to it. Otherwise, they're scheduled for Monday evening, so I would encourage folks to, where they want to learn more or speak more in enabling advisory to determine whether they're in favor or not in favor of this type of thing. That would be helpful for them as well. So I encourage you to go to that public hearing.
And April 17th at the community
That's
center.
right.
It's a Thursday night, 7 o'clock at the community center.
And if anyone needs transportation, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you for the information.
Okay, great. So now, well, we have to take a roll call vote for this. So why don't we do that and this, or that, let's just do that. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back. Okay, we'll take a brief break here, recess for 5 minutes. I get to do that once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, how over the recess, we got to bang it down. Okay, we're back in action. Thanks for everybody's patience. So now we're here to talk about and actually do an appointment, we hope, of Brian Moore as Water Commissioner for a term expiring May 13, 2014. And we have with us the two existing members of the Water Commission and the three of us, and we'll do a roll call vote in favor of that. Dot our i's and cross our t's is the way I best understand it.
Just so people understand, because I'm not sure I understand, the reason we're appointing somebody to a 2-month term is...
The previous member retired.
Okay. And do you have somebody who's going to serve, or who's running for election to serve after that point?
Ryan has been to the town caucus and he's been around, yeah.
Yeah, that's the point I was wondering. Okay, good.
Yeah, so rather than just wait till he gets elected, assuming he gets elected as the sole candidate, you're still without a third water commissioner in the intervening period. And we had previously, and I don't remember who was here when we did it, you weren't president, it was just Roger, and we had voted approval, but turns out you have to have both committees present and do a roll call vote to make it official and keep the town clerk happy. So that's what we're here for. So,
Just for the record, though, this is an appointment that's basically 60 days. It's to May of 2014.
Correct.
So this individual has been nominated by the Sherborn caucus. He's agreed to serve. This is only moving it. It's basically 60-day.
okay. So I'll take a motion to nominate Brian Moore as water commissioner for term expiring May 13, 2014. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Roll
Can
call
I just
vote.
do a
Absolutely.
friendly amendment, which would be for a term until the...
It says expire May 13.
Well, I was going to say, until the new candidate is sworn in and takes office, that way. There's no gap.
The statute says until a successor is installed.
Until successors installed.
Okay.
That way there's no gap, and if it can't be sworn in, they don't have a gap.
All right. Great, so roll call.
Aye.
Your name?
Roger Demmer.
Michael General, aye.
Peter Russo, aye.
Although it's a aye.
Done. That was easy. Yeah, you're welcome to stay. You did a very nice job there.
Gee, that took up all 5 minutes, didn't it?
Oh, we're shooting for 3.
Okay, so then we have next on the agenda, and I'm going to throw the ball your way, Mike, just to give us some updates on what you want to do here.
Okay,
And,
sure.
See where everybody...
The zoning board is down a member. The board now has 2 regular members, Alan Rubenstein and Paul Kerosene, and 2 alternate members, Ron Stefik and Rick Novak. Ron has been the alternate member for the last 9 years. What we want to do tonight is let people know there is a vacancy on the board. I think the zoning board's preference would be to have Ron become a full member, but even if that happens, there would then be a vacancy for the second alternate slot,
So we're looking for people to come forward.
if they're interested.
To serve on the Board of Appeals, and we'll bring this back next week.
And do we have a practice or policy? I mean, what's the expectation when one becomes an alternate member? Presumably that they would roll up?
Well, I think that's been the custom, and the custom hasn't always been followed, and I think sometimes there have been hard feelings when it hasn't been followed.
Yeah.
And, Ron has been an excellent board member, even as an alternate. He showed up at almost every meeting. He brings a skill as an architect that's different than the legal skills that the other members have. And he's been a very valuable participant on the board, even though he hasn't had a vote unless something was absent.
Right.
It's a good guy.
Yeah, it's a good guy. That's the other action. Great, so we've covered that. We've let people know, look forward to that, and we'll put it on a future agenda to do the actual appointment.
Great, good, thank you.
All right? And you're no longer there.
I have resigned.
So you're basically all ours.
Fully focused on this job, yes.
Awesome.
So we would advertise the associate position?
I think you could advertise a position, and we could figure out what to do.
All right, so next up, we have, talking about the warrant and town meeting articles and so forth, and I kind of bundled them together. I think what we we have is a draft warrant, is at least one item yet to be finalized.
Which is that?
Which is the marijuana bylaw, because what's not determined is who is going to allow the special permit. The question is submitted as planning board, ZBA, or BOS, the site plan review by planning board. So I don't, somebody knows what the story is there? Jean Guthrie, the keeper of this warrant.
I was at the ZBA meeting last night, and they felt that the proponent of the warrant should be the one that proposes
i.e. the
who
planning
should
board.
be, right, which is the planning board, who should be the permit granting authority.
And Grace, you're shaking your head as a planning board.
I can remember the conversation at the planning board. Did that article come to you with planning board?
This article that John Higley was in here talking about this with Gino, that was an open item weeks ago when they were here. It's still an open item, so we have what is not a final draft of a warrant. So we technically can't, it requires 3 signatures at the end of some day. So for us tonight, we may be approving the warrant subject to, and then we come back as individuals once changes are made
Please
for
forgive me,
signature.
I was off somewhere. This is the approval for what?
This would be the special permit granting authority for the new bylaw that's being proposed to deal with the medical marijuana siting issue. And when John Higley was in here, I think it's a little bit of a hot potato. He wasn't sure the planning board wanted to be the special permit granting authority. They asked if the zoning board wanted to do it. The zoning board does not want to do it, and I don't think the selectmen want to do it. It does make sense, since the planning board is the site plan authority, perhaps to have the planning board be the board that approves that.
The planning board hasn't voted that, is I guess what I would say. Does that matter?
Well, there's a huge hole in the bylaw now, so they should put something in, and then town meeting can decide.
Well, I think most of my towns have gone, in fact, all of my towns have gone to the planning board as the special.
Maybe if you tell the planning board that, they will vote to agree with you.
For purposes of closing the warrant, I would put in the planning board for the time being. And the planning board's going to have to do a report anyway, and if they want to
change it at their report.
Change it in their report, they can do so. But we need to do something. We have to finalize the warrant.
I'm sure if you speak about it the way you just have, that perhaps you'll get the vote you need to make it official.
Yes.
At some point, the music's going to stop and somebody's going to be left.
That's right. It sure sounds like the planning board, doesn't it? Well, as part of this discussion, we have 2 other pieces on the agenda. One is the amendment that you made, Paul, to include this. So why don't we talk about that, and then we'll see what we want to do in terms of closing and finalizing and signing this warrant, as well as the logistics of talking about which are consideration of positions on any or all of these.
What were the 2 issues? You said that there's issue Paul's raised.
Yeah.
What was the second?
The second thing is that we have on the agenda consideration of BOS positions on town meeting.
Gotcha, okay. I think there was also a question in terms of how one of these is phrased, the citizen's petition and the
Oh, in
listing
terms
of
of
the
what's
names.
listed there.
Right. And I think we ought to deal with that tonight, too.
We should deal with that as well, yeah. I know that the other, as part of this discussion, sorry, Paul, you're ready to go, that there may be amounts that change on this, but we don't officially have those amounts as changed, right? And you may have something further to add that we talked about briefly, but maybe you don't at this stage of the game. And I hate to be mysterious, but I am.
Yeah.
I am. So I don't want to put you on the spot. Think about that while we go to Paul's. How's that? And you can say you have something to add. Yes, please, Paul, we're all ears.
All right. I'm proposing that the town of Sherborn start a veterans tax work-off program. This has now been authorized by the state effective May 31, 2012. We didn't address it in 2013. It's slowly spreading across the state. It basically takes the senior tax work-off program by which people can volunteer. Seniors have been volunteering in this town successfully to volunteer their services, and they get a reduction of their taxes. The legislature has expanded that to veterans. The question I think I want to answer is, why should we do a special program for veterans? Well, the same reasons why we want to assist our seniors, we also want to assist our veterans. Many of them have come back injured. We have been continuously in war since 2001. Many veterans are suffering a variety of economic hardships from time missed. The taxes in Sherborn are pretty high. The program works well for veterans, which is why the state legislature has adopted it. The way it works is that it provides veterans an opportunity to come and work for the town as a volunteer and get credit. But if the veteran can't work, he can designate someone to work in his place. So if he's disabled or he can't physically do the job, the legislature, in its wisdom, has broadened the category. So he can have another family member do it to keep the taxes down low. So yeah, I'm looking for the tax service. That's next. The amount by which a person's property tax that is due would be reduced in exchange for the volunteer services. It's not considered income to the vet. I think this is an opportunity now that the legislature has allowed us to do that, do something right for our veterans. Now, the argument was made, well, very few people would be able to take advantage of it. If anyone is able to take advantage of it, that itself is worth adopting. The cost of this was another issue that some have raised. The cost comes out of the overlay surplus account. For the first year, we don't know how many might partake in this. We have the veterans agent here. He can tell us a little bit about how many vets there are in the town. But I would point out that this is a program separate from the senior program, so that someone who's both a senior and a vet can do this separately. It's not pick one and you're stuck. If you're a senior, you can take advantage of the senior tax write-off program. And if you're a possible vet, you can take advantage of the vet program. The statute also allows you to reset the minimum to 125 volunteer service hours rather than a cap of 1,000. The senior statute has a cap of $1,000. The 125 hours is based on the state's prevailing, not prevailing wage, the minimum wage. But there's talk afoot to increase the minimum wage to a higher number. If that minimum wage was increased, if we selected the 125-hour option, then the 1,000 limit would go up to a higher dollar value. So, for example, if it went to $9 an hour as the wage in Massachusetts would be 9 times 125, which is too complicated for me to do right now on my feet.
But it's not much more than $1,000
It's
anyway, in
not
the
much
order of
more.
magnitude, yeah.
And so I say it's the right thing to do because when you look at what our veterans have given to their country and to the Commonwealth and to our community, this seems to me to be a small thing to do in return for them, to make their life a little easier.
So basically, it's about $1,000 that in tax revenues we would forego. At the same time, we're getting volunteer hours at a minimum wage type rate of pay.
Yes.
And consistent with the senior tax credit program, which has been well utilized. I know that a number of people serve the town well in the work they do in lieu of paying those taxes. So it's not like we're not getting value for the dollars that are incurred, and it's a service rendered that works both ways. So I get that. And it's not a 1099, it's not a taxable event for the individual. It's not a bunch of record keeping for the town. So it's simple, I think, the way you describe it.
I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for the town because we get good help.
And are you suggesting that we try to include a warrant article in this warrant?
Yes.
Yes, on this.
I think we should start this as soon as possible.
And the public discourse on this, to the extent people want to have a public discourse, if we get it in there, it will, we would obviously inform advisory, it would be part of their public hearing, even though it hasn't been in a mailing that we're not proposing. It would be in the package that's mailed out to residents from advisory with their recommendation or not recommendation. It would be for the voters to approve at town meeting and ask questions and so forth.
This requires town meeting.
So it really is it's a bit of a last minute, but I like the idea of it, but I know there are other thoughts and questions, and I welcome that.
I've got other thoughts, and I appreciate Paul's, sincerity and support for the veterans and bringing this forward. I think it is a good, feel-good provision. I do object to having it come up in this way. I don't think it's good government to raise things at the last minute. Paul, as you pointed out, this has been adopted by the legislature 2 years ago. We could have thought about this earlier and really devoted some attention to it. I'm also concerned because the more I asked around town hall today about the senior tax credit program, it's very confusing. It doesn't appear that we've adopted the statute. It appears that we may have some special program, and yet I couldn't find any record of the special program in the town bylaws. The reason that might be an issue is because the statute limits the payment to minimum wage, and we've been compensating people, accrediting people with $10 an hour, my understanding is. So I have a lot of questions about the programs now, which this has sort of prompted, and I would suggest we put this aside, we bring it back next year, and in the meantime, we figure out, make sure we're doing the senior credit program correctly, so it's not subject to challenge, it doesn't put us at risk. We also think about what volunteer jobs we have, whether there's actually a demand for the volunteer service. I understand Doug may have some information on whether there are people who would take advantage of this program, and that would be helpful to know that also. So I think we should do it in a sort of a systematic way, not at the last minute, and actually think it through and adopt the best program we can for the town, or recommend the best program we can for the town.
In response to that, I do apologize that I did not think of this earlier. And I guess I take responsibility.
Well, none of us thought of it earlier, Paul. I mean, it's not just you. None of us, if this is a good thing to do, none of us have brought it forward, so.
But when I did think of it, I did bring it forward, and again, why now? Why now is if it helps, if it's able to help somebody now, that may make a difference in somebody's life. And to put it off means this program, we would not be able to help with that until July 1 of 2015. Why not we do what we can? Sometimes in government, it's all about taking advantage of opportunity while you have the opportunity, when you have the opportunity. Here we have an opportunity. Yes, I was late in bringing it forward, but it fits together with other stuff we are doing.
Well,
And the
let me ask you about that. I mean, you may have more information on the senior tax credit program, but there's really a dearth of information in the town records that I can find. And I don't know, maybe you were participating when it was
Yes,
set
I
up,
did,
or,
yeah.
and you would know how it was set up, but it doesn't appear to have been set up by adopting the state statute.
Right, because we wanted to go higher, but unfortunately, the Internal Revenue Service has now taken the position that those programs are taxable. And we have to withhold money, and there's fights going on in different parts of the state with the Internal Revenue Service. And one of my towns just agreed that, okay, from now on, for those off-statute programs, we're going to have to withhold, we're going to have to give W-2s, we have to treat it as an employee, there's a whole consequence to that, the way we set it up here in Sherborn.
It's also not in our bylaws. It's not codified in our bylaws. It's a program that really should have the light of day on it, and we don't have the light of day on it. We know it exists, but nobody seems to be able to tell me where it came from or what authority we had to pass it.
Well,
We have authority under the home rule power. It's essentially an appropriation that we can spend any way we want. The point I want to make, though, is that whatever relook at the senior program we may want to take should not hold up doing the right thing for veterans. I'm all in favor of perfecting the senior program if we want to, but that means we go back to, we also lower the wage down to the state minimum wage would be $8 an hour, which is in the process of being changed, and if it goes to $10.10 as the president is pushing, that won't make any difference. So the two programs would fit nicely together. But why hold up the veterans program? Because you have questions about the senior program.
My question is about both.
Well,
You
I
brought it
guess,
in the last
yeah,
case.
yeah, no, I get that. I don't want to confuse the administrative concerns that we may have on the senior tax credit program with this one. And I respect the idea of trying to follow the process, but the other thing is government seems to move so slowly, we wait another year on this. It's fairly straightforward, it's not big dollars. We may not even have anybody take advantage of it, but to the extent somebody can, that could be a very good thing. So I have no problem with including that in this warrant article. I think we're a little, if there's a great idea that you got to get in there, it's best to get it in rather than delay another year. So there's nice sense on this, Mike, so.
Well, I'm going to vote no, but I appreciate your feeling now.
So how does that work if we're signing a warrant and we don't
Well,
have?
I'm going to move to reopen the warrant, insert this article in the form drafted by town council, and then close the warrant.
I have a question.
Okay, I will second that motion. Any further discussion up here? No. Okay, we have two questions. Go ahead.
Question, do any of the other town boards have to scrutinize this or have hearings as do the planning board, be it a zoning
No.
article? They do not.
No, the statute authorizes the Board of Selectmen to establish the program. If this thing passes, then it will come back to us for us to establish the details of the program. That includes whatever rules or regulations we want.
Okay, yes, Bob?
What's the income maximum that somebody can have to get approved for this?
I think that would be up to the town setting the
I
program.
mean, if somebody's making $1 million, they could...
If they're a vet,
How many hours per week can they work
they can work 125 hours a year.
a year?
Okay, great, so it's been moved and
So,
seconded.
Bob, I mean,
Go
let
ahead.
me just get clarification. Are you saying the selectmen would not be able to set an income qualification, to Bob's point? If someone made $1 million a year, but they were a veteran,
We
could
can
authorize
set,
them to work?
we can set, this authorizes the board, this is the statute that's, I try to give everybody a copy of that.
I have a statute, that's why I'm asking the
Okay, it
question.
says, any city or town which accepts this section, the Board of Selectmen of the town may establish a program to allow vets to do this. So if town meeting adopts this, this comes back to us to actually set up the program. And you may want to take the position, if you're a senior, you can't have the benefit of both programs. I think they should have the benefit of both programs. We owe it to our vets to do that. And if you have a vet that's making $1 million a year, in my book, and he wants to volunteer for the town, and what's wrong with that? He wants to get paid, a millionaire wants to get paid $8 an hour to come work for the town. I'd love to have it.
Great.
Okay, so moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Got all that? Okay. All right.
Can I ask, where do you want to put it?
We'll talk.
We'll talk about it?
We should go through the whole warrant.
Yeah. So as part of that, Jens, to the extent you, can I have that back, Paul, just for my record? Yeah. To the extent you want to take a position, now, our practice has been that we have things on the warrant. We don't necessarily, we include them whether or not we support them. And that allows the voters to weigh in and make their own decisions. Our past practice that I've experienced has been, for instance, last year we took positions, we tried to take positions, we even voted on things. Some of them we were doing right up until town meeting. So not all of them were, I don't even know how many we did last year, Paul, before advisory public hearing. But to the extent we want to do that, I've also seen, when I was on advisory, selectmen taking positions on the fly at the meeting.
Yes, and part of that is because presentations are made.
Right.
And as you're listening to the presentations, that may gel things in our minds.
Right.
So we don't need tonight to take a position on every article.
Right.
But there are some articles that are no-brainers.
Yeah.
That, and I think from just the discussion I heard, we're actually all in agreement with. And if that's the case, then we should so say, so when we get to advisory, we can, as a group, as a board, tell advisory that we support the adoption of this particular article.
Right.
Even other articles that involve presentations and PowerPoint presentations, I mean, there may be things that we want to wait till we see what...
Yeah, I know there's a number that certainly a couple of items.
Is there a reason not to wait on all that? I mean, I just wonder if advisory is going to have the benefit of a particular presentation. Shouldn't we have that benefit also before we...
Yes, but to some extent, some of these are our articles, and many times during these Saturdays, I and other members of the board get up and actually advocate and do the presentations in some of these articles, or assist our...
Yeah, that would be pretty bad if we voted it down after we did the presentation.
Well, I'll give you an example. I sat in on advisory's meeting last night, which was all sorts of fun.
That sounds good.
But I just want to get a sense of where they were at. And there was one particular item that the topic came up, and they asked me about it, and it happens to be something promoted by one of our departments. And I said, we haven't taken a position on it. I have open questions, so I'm anxious to see presentations and so forth, and I'm not ready to, weigh in on it yet. And some of them were not too thrilled about that, saying, wait a minute, we're doing all this work, you're asking, we're being required to vote on this or approve these things at our public hearings, and you, the selectmen, who are basically sponsoring these items, haven't taken a position.
Well, that's
They weren't comfortable with
in
that.
terms of sponsoring the items. I guess we just established we're not sponsoring all the items that have our name on here.
Right.
We are
One item could be, a department that falls under our daily work, for example.
If it has your name on it.
So anyway, I just share that with you, that there's a certain sensitivity that to the extent they look to us and say, where does the Board of
We
Selectmen
can
fall
talk,
in this?
I think you're beating around the bush about the fire truck, but
Yes, I am.
You are, okay. And so we've had open questions about the fire truck. I don't think we have taken a position. I think
That's
your answer
correct.
last night was accurate.
Yes.
And maybe we're not ready to take a position until we hear the final presentation by the fire chief and his team at town meeting. We won't be doing that presentation. That's not something that's coming from us.
That's right.
But we may support it, we may decide not to support it.
But I heard from the fire chief today, the number has dropped, and so I'm wondering whether we can actually drop the number on the warrant.
Well, I've heard, but not directly, I heard 850.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that, all right?
So why not drop
Why don't we
it
go,
down to
why don't we do this? We'll go through this.
Because
one-
it'll cost more than
one-
$850 and we won't have enough money.
Yeah, I know, one by one.
He's gotten, He's done
I'll look to the town administrator whether he'll let us drop to 850.
I wouldn't, I met with him twice today, and he didn't mention.
Yeah, he didn't, to me either. He
Okay,
said he was waiting for some pricing
So
when I talked to him, so I don't know.
we can wait till they pull them.
I mean, it can always go down, you know, be amended down at
Yes.
the town meeting or a motion or any.
But you can also go up, and we put this below the line. The line being, once you put the Board of Selectmen, there is the part of the text. Everything below that isn't part of the article, that's only informational comment about.
Yep. All right. Well, how about we go through one by one, see where we want.
Sure.
Article 1, everything's good.
Can we get a vote for that?
I'm in favor, I'll take a motion to support the Article 1.
Well, I'm not ready to do that because this is the approval of the annual report. I haven't seen the annual report.
Neither have
So
I.
we can't even do the easy ones. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's right.
I mean, have you seen it?
No,
No.
What's the date for the annual report?
It's going to the printer. You can all see it. I can be happy to send you a PDF.
No, but what's the date that it has to be done by?
It has to be on the website by, I think, April 12th, maybe? What's 2 weeks before?
Well, we're hearing and acting on the reports that we can't see.
It's,
I mean, I get, it's a.
Well, we are, the town meeting, once they say
That's
the
right.
town meeting.
That's right.
We're just saying we agree we should do that.
This is a town meeting, and I really will, I can send you all a PDF file of the town report
I
tomorrow.
got enough to look at. No, that would be great. But I support this Article 1 as it's written, assuming that I will get to see an annual report that's well-written by the various boards and committees.
And it is.
Me too. I'm in agreement with that. It's just I'm not sure whether we should go on record approving.
We're not approving the reports, Paul. We're approving the fact that
This
town
article.
meeting is going to be asked to vote to approve the reports. Right?
Well, I thought, are we talking about finalizing the warrant, or are we talking about
Both.
supporting the vote?
We're finalizing the warrant, and to the extent we can support an item in its purpose, let's do that.
I'm taking way too
Yes.
long on this one. Let's just pass by it and do that.
Okay, well, but keep that on the warrant, yes?
Yes, keep it.
I have one, and I might be speaking out of turn, but Carrie Toney's here from the Friends of the Sherborn Library for the approval of the
Oh.
letter. And maybe we could, like, get that done.
Gee, we're only up to Article 1, I'm sorry. There's only 30 more to go.
So she
Yeah, we were
could,
going
like,
to take a position on the Pulte project. No, yes,
Let's do
yes,
that.
let's do that. Very good.
I move approval subject to the insurance certificate being correct.
yes.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion, all in favor? So I have to sign something there, David, yes?
Yes.
But I can't sign the part that says we have the insurance certificate.
No, you don't have to sign that. If you could just sign this part, and then that way, when I...
Oh, we all
the
sign this,
correct-
yes.
Yes, when the correct insurance certificate comes in tomorrow, I will attach it and tell you it all came.
Okay. All right, there's one other place that I'm supposed to sign, I thought.
It is on
Second
the, there
page.
is on the
Third
second
page.
page.
Board of Selectmen Chairman, I have to sign this?
Yeah.
Yes. Copy, oh, but that's the liability insurance, which doesn't
Right.
exist.
So you might not
Okay,
want
never
it.
mind. Never mind. Sorry. Aren't you glad you got to sit here all this length of time?
You want to hear what happens on the next 30 articles?
You know, you'd think we'd learn, why is that person here? They asked them in case they're on
Thank you.
for a 5-minute thing.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jeannie, for that. Okay.
Can we go back on the warrant?
Go back to 1.
The warrant has been around for 2 months. So there hasn't been any movement of removing any of these articles. So these articles are in the warrant. So you're not going to vote to include each one of these.
I think
That was during two
I think
different.
you have to vote to support it,
I
right?
was going through
That's
each
the
one.
only vote that
Yeah.
needs to be.
I mean, maybe then what you're suggesting would be vote on the warrant, closing the warrant, right?
I think we already voted to close the warrant. That was part of Paul's motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Because we had never voted to close the warrant.
right.
So do we need to
Well-
do anything further with the warrant?
The original vote was to open the warrant on this day and close it on that day, and that's how we did it. So there wasn't a vote
But when
to
we added
officially close
this,
it. But when you added that, we can accept that the warrant was open, still open. And so it is officially closed. But there is a warrant that exists, so you're not voting to add articles or anything. You're just totally looking at support, considering support of these articles.
So we've closed the warrant, and what you're saying is now this is the warrant. This is going to the printer. We're going to sign it, and it's going to get noticed and everything else.
well, I think we
With
had
that
two
one
subject
change.
twos,
Yeah.
right? We had we had two changes, right? There was
Right,
one-
the change for Paul's article.
Three changes.
And the change on the citizen petition.
So that's the planning board, so three changes.
The citizen petition, the citation on the citizen
The
petition?
fact that it should name the lead person and then say in 14 others. or whatever
Consistent
it
with
is.
past practice.
While we're going through each one of these, can we review the citations that we bring together?
Sure.
Yeah, and, hopefully I'm looking at the right thing. I'm looking at what was in the pack, so presumably that's it. Okay, so we have Board of Selectmen, Article 1. We have Article 2, Board of Selectmen.
I'd like to support this.
Yes, now, the ones I don't know which version you're looking at. There's a typo, you got that switch.
Beaver
Yeah.
Solutions.
Okay, good.
We're going to fix a typo, but this is
Second.
for the benefit
Okay,
of
all
our
in favor,
viewers.
great.
This is for unpaid bills for prior fiscal years. There's 3 unpaid bills. We should be paying our bills. We have to have a town meeting vote to pay our bills. There's no reason not to pay these bills, so I move that we support them.
We already
Yeah, we
voted.
seconded, we voted.
We already voted, you missed it.
Okay. All right, Article 3 is the omnibus budget, and it says omnibus budget, Board of Selectmen. We just got an updated model. They'll be going through in great detail on Saturday. I understood from my sitting in on advisory last night that there may be some fiddling around with computers, out of budgets or in budgets, and I don't think they've finalized how they're doing that, but there was a bulk purchase of 11,000 or something, you get a good discount.
So let's hold on
So we're holding on that one, but the article itself makes good sense. Article 4 is the collective bargaining agreements, and, well, are there, we just did
We've
the,
been bargaining with CM&D, so there may be one.
well, does the police contract count? Does the ratified teachers contract count under
The
this?
teachers, I think, would have.
Well, this
count
isn't
on
just for this year, is it? This is for all collective bargaining agreements, is it? Doesn't say.
No, it's only the ones that have expired. I mean, the ones
We
that are
have
up for
we have new
approval.
ones starting, so for example.
It doesn't say that, David.
Yeah, this article is a funny one, and my
Only
big,
appropriate for the first year. Only do this for the first year. State law says once you've done that article, you're stuck for the rest.
But it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that in this article.
No, this article says if there's going to, these are new collective bargaining agreements.
It doesn't say new collective bargaining agreements, but.
so let me ask you the question I never quite got the right understanding. Diane's over there, right here, he knows the question. Whenever we do that, there's nothing that the voters get to see about this, i.e., here's the deal that was struck with the police.
Yeah.
Here's the deal that was struck with the educators. So I hope that, and the question is, who does that? Because I don't know that there's anything that advisor's looking at on Saturday.
What the other chance to do is the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator make photocopies of the collective bargaining agreements and put them on a table outside town meeting. And everybody at town meeting has the collective bargaining agreements. And there are some who get up and argue against it. There's some who
See, I've never seen Sherborn do that in the past.
No, I've been trying to get Sherborn to do that.
Well, I'm all for that, more.
What good does it do if you put them on the table outside of town meetings? People don't have a chance to prepare for them. Put them on the website if that's what we're going to do. Just post them.
Yeah.
If we really want to get people the information, we should get them the information before the last minute. I know I sound like a broken CD on this, but it's...
Just what they're voting is to fund the contract. They're not voting
So
individual
with the
terms of the
CM&D tweaking that was recently done, that ends this year, so you're in the process of that for starting next
for
fiscal
the
year.
July 1 contract.
Yeah, so you're still, so all that really applies is the police contract, or does it? Because that was this past fiscal year as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that already, it taken effect, but you can bring it,
If it's already been funded,
it's already funded.
then you don't have to bring it forward.
I think that's what,
just the educators agreement is what it's called.
right.
And what state law says is that if you're adding costs, that's what town meeting votes on. Nothing else in the contract.
So in that case, you may
Well,
not
that's what it says,
have,
cost items included in collective,
Or just the cost items.
but it doesn't say new.
But if they're already funded, state law says you don't need a vote. So if you already had existing funds and you just transfer the funds around, then.
Which is what we had in the police
Never-
situation.
never-
Right, we did that in place, and it also doesn't matter because anything that's new, anything that's carried over is in our budget anyway.
As well as new contracts right
Yeah.
now in the budget. I
Right.
mean, the educators agreement is reflected in the school budget.
Right.
All right, so we're going to support this, is that the?
So-
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
it's just
I-
a question of what information is provided and by whom.
if there is an agreement for CM&D that is funded within the CM&D budget for FY15, then it wouldn't need to come in under this article.
Or 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sherborn has traditionally done that. We put a footnote. We fund it in the budget, and then we put a footnote down saying this includes 20,000 to fund a new collective bargaining, first year of a new collective bargaining agreement with X, Y, Z.
Well, it's a funny article because we never really have done anything with it other than,
But that's different from the teachers. If the teachers is included in their budget,
it's included in their budget, yes. Reflected in their
Then
budget.
it would need to
It's
be-
not buried in their budget as a placeholder of an estimated amount. It's now rolled up.
funded in their budget.
Yeah.
So it would still need to be approved in their
Okay, but so to the extent somebody says, well, what's the deal? So I guess we should maybe inquire of the superintendent if he's put that deal up or not at this stage, you know, on their website, or what should go in the town.
I wouldn't act on this.
We wouldn't act on this until need arises.
Okay, so we're going to pass
All
on
right,
this one.
well, okay.
Hold that.
That's the question mark, but, Article 5, supplemental, funding of the various supplementals, well, we don't know the
We know what that
final
is at
amounts,
this point. We don't
so
know.
that we can't, I mean, the article itself, you need to do it. The amounts is so far identified in the,
It's on the second page of the
on the
model.
second page of the model, or, you know, big slug of snow and ice and police overtime, less than historical, some legal, and some other items that I'm not sure about, including looks like the town computers are in that part of the model for the full amount, David, so the budget's basically all.
Where are we now?
I'm looking at this part right here. In the middle of the page, it says supplemental.
Supplemental 2014.
So that comes out
There's
of
legal,
free
I'm sorry, I
cash.
didn't see legal.
Yeah,
Thanks, yeah.
and so that's what people will be voting on, though. That number, as it continues to evolve, which it may, by the time town meeting comes around. So, I mean, I can vote in support of that based on what I'm looking at. I'm not going to argue the amounts. If you want to do that, or you just want to wait till we get to the final number. That's fine.
We can always change our minds, totally. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the other thing.
All right, next one is, yeah, Chapter 90 funds, and that's just vote to raise and appropriate Chapter 90 funds.
We should support this.
I support that.
Yeah, so,
Hey, David, if on that topic, just because it's not Chapter 90, but with the spring coming, are we moving forward on Goulding Street and Woodland?
My memory's drawing a blank.
Well,
We have to pull it.
last year, money was appropriated for Mill and Woodland and Goulding and Woodland, and instead of doing a study, we put the
Oh,
stop
right,
signs
right.
at Mill and Woodland.
Right, right.
But Goulding and Woodland was going to require some engineering, I just didn't know where we
No,
stood
the
on that.
engineer has already started on that.
He has, okay.
Yeah, so we will see a
we're
report from
paying
that.
some of that.
Most likely before spring.
Okay, great, good.
And-
I just want to make sure we're still on track, because we,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it disappeared over the winter, so I want to make sure we're still on track. I
Yeah.
mean, the entire intersection disappeared, it just was
Okay.
covered with snow, so now we're good.
Yeah.
So, I'll move Article 6, support of Article 6. Second, all in favor? Aye, okay. Article 7, revolving funds, it's the same sort of deal, I would support that. Second, all in favor? Great. Article 8 are all the capital items.
Can I mention one thing under the capital items?
Yes, please.
We were, we broke out the purchase of speed alert radar message board of $11,000 into a separate article, which is under 14.
Right. And that will be from the Odessa fund instead.
Right.
Yep.
So that it's not out of the tax revenue.
And have you thought about the other topic? You have nothing to add at this stage of the game? Why don't you save that for a little more thought and discussion?
Can I try this? Can we move a...
Oh, you want to talk about that? No, okay. Yes, go ahead, Paul, I'm
Can I
sorry.
move approval of the transfer station,
Paving
paving
and
and
water.
water, the farm pond management plan, and the Pine Hill School Building Committee?
I second that.
I third that.
Okay, all in favor? Great. Does anybody have any others there they want to move approval on, or you want to hear some more at this stage of the game? I want to hear more on the fire department truck. I'd like to hear a little more on the police command vehicle, although I'm pretty sure I'm okay with that. C&D, I'm mostly okay, but I would like to know just sort of the overall equipment structure, what we've got there. Fuel accounting software, I think I'm okay in that.
Should we move the fuel accounting software? now?
Yeah, I'd move to
Given
approve
how
that.
the old one was described?
Yes, yeah.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, great. Police command vehicle, anybody want to move on that?
I'll be ready doing that.
All right, let's wait till we hear
Yeah,
a
we
little
will.
more. Yeah, just, and the snow fighter dump truck. A little more. I mean, it's a necessary piece of equipment, but, okay, good. So we covered a few of those. Article 9 is the regional school district.
Can we go back to it?
Go
Capital?
ahead. Yes,
What did you do on 5 and 6?
yes.
4,
4,
5,
5, and
6,
6, and 7, we voted
Support.
unanimous support.
And we might as well mention about,
Yes.
give an update on the HVAC capital item that was voted at last year's town meeting. The amount that was approved was $157,000. That was to do an insulation project of the fire department, plus replace the existing boiler and piping that was damaged. We waited for the new chief to come on board. We then held an RFQ process to choose a designer to design the system. So we did the insulation project, and then we were able to see how much was going to be allowed to be moved to that from the energy grant, so that was about $20,000 to be applied there. And then we put the project out to bid as the designer had put it together. So the estimate before we put out to bid was well over $200,000. So when the bids came in, they were broken into a base bid and then an add-on option 1 and an add-on option 2. And the lowest bid was around 138, 140. So that exceeds the amount that we had available. So there were a couple of options that we could do, and fire department is talking now, they may want to push to get option 1 funded, which they may have thought that that should have been included in the base. So that's why there's not a new boiler at the fire department right now. And we're still trying to work through
So
that.
we're still working out, what I don't know, and I hope we'll find out sooner than later, is what we had, the original scope that came up with the number that the voters approved last year versus what went out to bid, the scope of that,
Right.
whether it's options 1, 2, and 3, whatever you're describing. And the amounts that we're really talking about would be helpful, because we're $156,000, and we've used some for engineering, and that's why 138 is above and beyond the amount by
Right.
$6,000 or something.
But the engineering we carved out with a not to exceed amount, so we knew that amount early.
Yeah.
But we just, whatever was brought to town meeting last year was not.
Not sufficient. So the question, it begs the question of whether we know enough or smart enough to add something in here, because the last thing I'd like to see is, the thing I would hate to see is not have an adequate heating system operating in that fire station next winter, given the cost of...
Why not add item 8 here? I would say supplemental funding for fire station
I would rather, up until today, I thought we were 6,000 short on that 138
Yeah.
versus 132 we
Yeah.
had.
That you could
And that would
find
be an
some
easy
other
gap
way.
to close.
Yeah.
So we just found out about this today, that the fire department was pushing this option one to be added in that was bid.
And
So
that's air conditioning or something, right?
it's replacing the condensing unit and some other items that total 26.
The issue there was when we built the place, we used the old boiler and we used the old pipes, and the old pipes weren't sufficient, if my memory serves.
Yeah.
And having seen the project at Pine Hill, doing a boiler is a big deal.
Right, right. So I wouldn't, if anything, I would think that it should be a supplemental from someplace else if capital and advisory have the stomach to go for that.
And you haven't broached this with either of those groups
I
at
haven't.
this stage, right? I mean, this just
Today.
came up late this afternoon when we
Right,
spoke, right?
right.
To me, yeah.
But you don't want us to put it on the warrant as an option.
I mean, if you put it on, it could always be pulled off.
Yeah, that's what you had advised before.
It's not inconsistent with what we've done on the transfer station.
No, I think I was talking about a current year supplemental, not a supplemental in the warrant. Requesting a supplemental in the current year as opposed to asking for it as a capital item for next year.
So supplemental, i.e. it's paid out of free cash as a supplemental
Right.
additional cost.
So
On top of what's in the model already, is that what you're, because that would have to be identified.
Yeah, because it's not in there
It's not
now.
in there.
Well, it would.
So it's there or it's here? Yes, I mean.
This is next year, and then the supplemental would be current year, and they can start the project.
But the important thing is we don't need to make a change to this draft anywhere to deal with the shortfall of funding for
I hate
fire
to,
station.
I hate to muck with things once they're already, everybody's seen it so much in one form. As far as the list of capital items,
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we could always add that on Saturday, yes? If we had more, like, we don't have enough information to make I don't feel like there's
Right.
enough information
to alter that.
to necessarily alter. I would like to hedge my bets if we can, though. I think I'd rather see it here than
I think we should finalize.
supplemental free cash thing.
Before we have the hearing with advisory.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'd rather see it as a
Well,
capital
I don't know,
item?
that's my gut. I mean, you're talking
Well, it started as a capital item.
35 to 70 grand if you did all
If you did the
the
whole thing,
luxury.
it's 70 grand, yeah.
Well, what's, you can always take it off and take no action on it. If you add it number 8, you could
No,
put.
it has good for us to reopen the warrant and put it in again.
Yeah, to add this line item as a capital item, which nobody's seen, but if, the alternative though, if you get a hard number that you want to live with, and that hard number is 35 grand, let's say, it's going to show up in here as a use of free cash, which is also, it's paying for a portion of a large capital item that was treated as a capital item by voters using free cash, which is,
Right.
inconsistent.
Yeah.
Do we want to just, would you ever put a special one with the regular meeting? Just have a
You could,
separate
you
warrant
could
for that?
continue to look at and do a special town meeting within the annual,
Yeah.
you only need 2 weeks' notice to announce something like
Yeah.
that.
That's pretty cumbersome, as usual.
Yeah, so the question is, when can if we don't add it tonight, can we add it Saturday? Can we add it,
And this-
knowing that this is an item that, to the extent we can find more information,
This
or we
is-
can add it
Right.
in 2 weeks?
But it's an item that is going to be done, it has to be done at some point, and we already have the bids for it.
Yeah.
The alternative is if you did nothing and the whole thing failed going into next fall, then
We're stuck with a bad boiler that costs us a ton to run and
they
maintain.
hooked up new equipment to.
I would add it just as a precaution.
But I mean, we closed the warrant an hour ago, so what we're saying is we're reopening the warrant and adding something to it after we closed it an hour ago. Is there any other surprises, David? Anything else we need to know before we do this? I don't want to keep opening and closing the warrant. I think it's.
I'm with you.
I agree, I wasn't going to.
I know. Well, so.
Through the discussion, that's what.
Yeah.
I asked you to think about it. I think it's good we're talking, it's better that we put it on the table.
Yeah, I don't understand why a special isn't the solution to this, but.
When I told the chief earlier today, I think I had said it would be a supplemental or a special town meeting, that I wasn't going to adjust anything in the warrant, but it's not my warrant.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's not anymore.
I don't have a problem, Mike, I don't have a problem opening and closing the thing if it's a line item for an item of significance.
Do we know what it is? Do we know the number?
We don't know the number, but we're gonna put not to exceed, and then that number can change,
We
right?
could just put TBD, that a lot of times we should warrant some.
Okay, you explained it to advisory. And we've got a new number that's TBD in our final warrant.
Well, we'll explain it. I mean, we're,
Fire,
it's a problem for
to
the
me,
town.
fire needs to explain it. They brought the article last year. We can back them up and support them,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, I support the concept of doing it. I'm not against that.
Right.
It's just the
I
mechanics
just
of when and
want to
where.
have clear mechanics so everybody gets to hear it and knows what the number is, and they're not showing up at town meeting and finding out something new, or showing up at the advisory hearing and finding out something new.
Well-
It just doesn't seem right to spring stuff at the last minute.
No, but it's gonna be sprung anyway if it shows up as supplemental.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we don't do it, but I think we have to figure out a way to do it, and a way to do it that's not on the supplemental.
Yeah, so I think this is the best way to do it, and it forces us to find the right number and talk about it in front of the voters. So that's important.
I'd move to reopen Article 8, reopen the warrant, insert a new item to Article 8, which would read 8, supplemental funding for fire station HVAC, TBD.
I second that motion.
So can we break that into two pieces?
You bet.
So first to vote on reopening the warrant. I'm going to vote no.
You should be a vote to open the warrant, a vote for the item, and then a vote to close.
Okay, so, what do you want to amend that? Move to
open the warrant.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
I move to put the item we just described.
Okay, I second that. All in favor? Okay.
I move to close the warrant.
I second that. All in favor? Excellent. Okay, you're a man of principle.
I want to make sure that that was recorded right.
Okay. So we open
2
the
to 1
warrant.
for opening.
2 to 1 for opening.
Okay.
3-0 for including
supplemental
item
add.
8. It's the supplemental funding for
3-0.
fire station HVAC TBD.
3-0.
And 3-0 to close. Okay.
Which fire station is this?
The main one.
Ashland's.
Oh, the main one, yeah, the main one. It's the newest one, Elliot, right up the street from you.
Near you.
North Main Street,
Yeah.
not Farm Road.
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Article 9.
Move approval.
I second that. Any discussion? All
I'm
in
trying to think what
favor?
it says.
That's the
Yeah.
regional school
Yeah,
district
yeah.
capital with the intermediate.
Yeah, we had a good presentation.
Yeah, that's good.
That was
Yep.
good.
Okay, cemeteries, Article 10.
Move approval.
Second. All in favor?
That's the $3,000, is that
Well, I don't know what numbers they're gonna have. I don't think they've got a final number on the embellishment and whatever they need.
The model is
Transfers.
3,000.
Well, then that may be it. Good, okay. Article 11 is the job description for the TA being added to the general bylaws.
This is Pinto, isn't it?
Or is this Pinto? I'm sorry, this is Pinto. You're right. This is
11 is
Pinto.
not.
11 is for the selectmen. This is 11, 12, and 13 relate to Lieutenant Pinto's
Got it,
contract.
okay.
I move approval of all three.
It's in support for all three.
Yes, support for all three.
Support for all three.
Yeah, I second that. All in favor? Great. Good, Paul.
Wow, Paul, that was like, you just jumped.
All right, Article 14 is $11,000 Odessa payment for the speed alert radar messaging board.
Second.
Move, seconded, all in favor? Great. Article 15, this is the TA, this is from the Government Structure Task Force, or whatever they're called, Sherborn Government's Task Force Group. So,
We had some changes.
I had issues with the restrictive date, so I'm not ready to support that yet, because I still have questions about the
That's what I'm wondering,
timing
did
of
they
that.
change it after we talked to them? or
They
is this
made
the
a
same?
modest change. One was clarity that the exclusions were for elected officials, elected committees, elected boards, elected councils, or elected commissions, blah, blah, blah. And that was in two parts of that. But they still kept what I consider restrictive timeframes for what the board has to do, what the town has to do when there's a vacancy in the TA office. Interim TA term of 90 days I find too restrictive, and additional 60 still restrictive. And this start process for hiring the new town administrator within 14 days. So all those dates are, I find, just based on practical perspective,
So we
might be restrictive.
Are you proposing we not support it, or are you
So
proposing? we just-
I'm not ready to support it unless they address that further.
But you're not anti-supporting it?
No, I think otherwise it's all there. Otherwise it's all there.
I think he's asking to put a hold on it until later.
Just hold it.
Yeah, let's hold that. Okay. White?
Is the citation Sherborn Governance Task Force, or is it Board of Selectmen for Sherborn Governance Task Force?
It's not us.
It's not us. Yeah, he took it from us.
But it should be Board of Selectmen, because we put it on the warrant,
No,
or the Sherborn Governance Task Force.
they're separate, they were authorized by town meeting to propose things. We voted it on the warrant.
We cannot put it on the warrant by state law.
Show me the state law.
It's Chapter 39, Section 10.
That says the selectmen approve the warrant, doesn't say they're the only ones who can add something for putting it on the warrant. We are concluding this at the request of this board, and that's why it's listed on here. That's
Then
why
let's say that, Board of Selectmen at the request of the Governance Committee.
Yeah, that gets confusing. I mean, we don't do that like, we do the same, just for example, for Article 20, Town Clerk Dog License Fee. We do the same, because the town's never done that.
Yeah, that's
we
what
never
we're
done that.
You've always done it that way.
For just just a page ago, it said the Cemetery Commission, Board of Selectmen for the Cemetery Commission.
So it's all over the map, is what you're saying.
Oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. I can
Last
tell you-
year it was various,
It was the groups that brought it forward, yeah.
well, no, there was
Not
no
last
clear.
It was a mix of things.
It's supposed to be, I can tell you what I advise.
I can tell you other towns and cities do it
All right, can I,
exactly this way, without saying Board of Selectmen for everything.
with all due respect, can we just ask Barbara for her opinion on this particular issue? Because to the extent we can avoid being part of some of these, many of these, I'd prefer that we were. Take Agricultural Advisory Committee, that's them. Conservation Commission, that's them, even though we appoint them.
But we put these on the warrant at their request. They came before us, we put it on. There was a vote of the board to put it on.
But people reading this, particularly if it shows the advisory report, they're thinking, now we're answering for everybody's, and I don't want to be doing that, particularly when we get to Article 17. As an example.
You're looking at it from political
because you
issues,
could make-
I'm
you
looking
could-
at it from legal issues.
Well, Paul, with all due respect, you advise your towns that way, but there are plenty of towns that don't do it that way.
If they don't, they're backward, and you need to fix them. That's
I
not
think
an
this is
excuse for us to do it. That's like when my kids come to me and say, hey, Dad, everybody drinks, so I should be able to drink. No, in my house, I have standards. And the same thing here. In our house, we should have standards, and the standard here is that we should do it.
Can I ask Peter Guthrie for her historical perspective? Put her on the
Okay.
spot.
I have last year's right here, and we've done it, the regional school committee has done their own Conservation Committee did their own,
Planning board does their own.
Planning Board does their own, and then
Historically.
the Selectmen have always done the cemetery one because of the request of the Cemetery Commission. So,
That may have been last year, and I don't know why that would have been, but
I mean, I can go downstairs and get the, if you want, I'll run down and get the previous ones, the last few
I like
years.
Peter's idea, just getting town council to.
Yeah, can we just do that, and then I'll be more comfortable. I want to support what you're talking about, but I'm confused on this, given what I recall in the past. What I recall in advisory reports, which basically show these. You know, they pull out the warrant, right? Isn't it fair to say, Jeannie, that the advisory report takes this warrant, takes it verbatim, spreads it out, puts in their content that they want to put in on each one?
Yeah.
But it's this verbatim. And in all the years that I was on advisory, which was 4 years, it seemed like 40, we did it this current way, that's my recollection. And I keep those things, so I'll double check looking at them, and if we get Barbara to just weigh in, that would be great. So, absent Barbara forcing, suggesting we want to do that, I'm less inclined personally, and it sounds like Mike is as well.
Yeah, I mean, the statute doesn't say specifically anything other than the selectmen shall put in anything that a petition of 10 citizens requests, and that the warrant is under the hands of the selectmen. Those are the only things it says.
right,
As far as
it's
the
either a
selectmen goes.
selectman or it's a citizen. That's what the statute says.
No, it says the selectmen shall put in the warrant
Right.
at the request of the citizens.
The majority of the warrant, the articles are by the Board of Selectmen, but there are,
Well, here's the fundamental question. Whatever's in parentheses, what does that represent?
Exactly.
It's supposed to represent, how did it get on the warrant? Was it a citizen petition, or was it put on by the government?
But even the citizens petition got put on by the selectmen. That's what the statute says.
But the convention in Massachusetts says you put citizen article so that everything on the warrant is either Board of Selectmen or citizen article. Those are the two categories you gotta choose.
The Natick does it wrong, and other places do it wrong.
I'm not a
Lots of places
council
do it
member,
wrong.
I have no idea what they do.
Well, you're not counsel in a lot of places that do it differently, I'll just tell you that.
No, but and again, historically, my memory may not be all that great, but I sure don't remember anything but what we're seeing here. in the past.
So it sounds like I'm outvoted 2-1, let's move on.
Okay, we'll move along. Article 16 is the,
So we didn't take a
so-
position on this.
so we're holding off on that.
And
Article
that, and you're
16.
leaving that citation the way it
For now, until the town council
Yes.
is in.
is. Okay.
Article 16 is the one to approve the special act, asking for special act, authorizing the town administrator to approve warrants. And the only thing I have here is another again, and I thought we had talked about with the task force. This says that selectmen have to have a meeting within 7 days if they have a question about a payment of one sort or another. And I thought we had all agreed that it was going to be changed to 14 days, if I'm remembering correctly, because we no longer had the weekly payroll, and that was why they had the 7 days. So I'd like to see them
You
consider
hold this
changing that.
again.
Yes, I'll hold that. Article 17, I'm not in support of that one.
I'm against that one.
So I'd move to take no action on Article 17.
17 is what, basically?
Make the Board of Selectmen a member of 5 members instead of 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Did you say no action?
No
Or did you say-
action.
So to take no action.
Take no action on Article 17.
We have enough trouble with...
So you have a motion, I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on that?
I can live with 5, I can live with 3.
I understand. Yeah. No, I don't support this, so that's why I take the no action thing. So I'll take a vote on that. And against?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay.
I did,
That's fair. Do you have thoughts on that,
well,
Dave?
no, under article we just passed,
16.
15.
15. You had other thoughts?
Under G, I had recommended some changes to council and the governance people.
Okay, so
Basically,
you,
before it said that the school department was in charge of their procurement, and that's actually an authority that has to be given to them from the chief procurement officer.
Got to do with delegation.
Right. But the wording before was just appointing them as in charge of their own.
so does this reflect the correct wording then?
Yes,
Okay, so you don't have a, you're just identifying it.
that it had changed from the
Change.
previous one.
Okay.
The one before, if you remember, it said the school department was in charge of it, and that
Good.
I had no say whatsoever. But now it's,
Now you can carry this around when I'm not using it. All right, where are we? We're at Article 18, tax collector to town collector. I think that's fine.
I move we approve that.
I second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, good.
I hate to beat a dead horse.
Beat it.
We're leaving the citations the way they are until we get to talk to Barbara, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yep. Article 19. I'm still trying to read the words on that just to make sure we're not creating an extra day off in some manner.
Well, I did.
I think we are.
We're fine with
I
that,
think-
you
I think
legal
we're fine.
guys?
I have an opinion on that, though. I thought we had,
You probably shared it, and it's still,
yeah,
you know, I'm not
it's not,
legally trained like some other people here.
it only makes it a holiday for the purpose of that specific law.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, I think I get that. Okay, so I'll take a motion to support that then.
some of
Second, all in favor? Great. All right, the dog license of substituting $50. I had a call from a resident who said she was upset that she missed her getting that in on time and she got billed $50 already. How does that work? Because what we have is,
It was just 2 dogs.
no, it was one dog.
So,
But anyway,
no, sorry, can you repeat that? I was making marks.
a resident called to complain that she was invoiced by the town a penalty of $50 for a late dog license fee before this has even been approved.
Yeah, I received the same complaint and looked in on it.
Oh,
Um,
I think I told her to call you.
Maybe, same person. Was your phone call more than 2 hours?
It was a very lengthy call, and it was a wonderful call.
Yeah, it was very
This
informative.
person.
$25 an hour.
Yeah, take that to the bank.
I move approval.
I can't remember my answer.
Okay, that's fine.
But it was completely legal.
Support.
Yeah. Second, all in favor, great, support that. 21 is the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Yeah, I know, Paul, you had some questions before we get too far onto this one and the next one. If you're comfortable with where you're at.
Okay.
Okay, as long as you're comfortable
On 21,
being
We-
involved in all of this.
We sent a response letter to her, and the reason was the state statute already says $50.
$50, yeah, so they were billing.
So this is making the local bylaw reflect the
Conform
state
with that.
statute.
Gotcha. Understood. All right, yeah, this one, I think is less questionable than the second one from my perspective.
This is just the purposes section, and it's part of a statewide standard thing that's adopted by many communities. When we tried to adopt it here in Sherborn, we had to take this language out, because there were all
There's some
questions.
confusion, yes.
All
Yeah.
these boards and committees were saying, hey, we've never seen this before, nobody talked to us, what does it mean, what are our duties? So we didn't have that in the bylaw the first time around. So it's just putting it back in. It's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, I did ask Barbara just to, sort of off the cuff, whether this increases their rights and, capabilities. No. Does it reduce the rights of abutters and other boards and committees and so forth? No. So it doesn't really change anything. It just allows them to be a resource as needed and wanted, quite frankly, is the way I've gotten to on this one, so.
So I move approval.
yes, second.
All in favor? Great.
That's 21.
21. 22, This one, the way I understand it, is that what they're doing is just putting in laws that already, that their laws already exist, and this is just stating what those laws are was the explanation I gotten. And so, to me, if the law exists, why would you have to do this? And when you're messing around with town bylaws, this is a big bylaw to be putting in. So I'm less comfortable at this stage on this one. Doesn't mean I'm going to be against it yet, but I would like to hold this one. Yeah.
I'm gonna, because I'm a farmer, this might.
Okay, this one you're gonna
abstain. Recuse myself.
Yeah. Okay.
It's up to the two.
So we're going to hold.
Yeah, we'll hold on this one. Okay, Article 23, the general wetlands bylaw, where they're eliminating a line about all sorts of notifications because it's redundant.
No-brainer.
Yeah, it's moved and seconded, all in favor? Great. Zoning bylaws on the marijuana.
We have to hold that until we get that.
Yes, get that planning board, unless you want to do subject to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll hold that
Plus, we get
guy.
through a lot of pages this week, we just hold it.
Yeah. We are moving. Article 25, lighting.
He's got an ulterior motive.
Is an item that could be prohibited if they're found to be injurious, obnoxious, offensive, dangerous, or a nuisance to the community. I like the idea of that one.
I do too, but I think Mike had some questions about
Yeah, my concern is it doesn't put any standards in there, that's great, but it just doesn't give you lighting standards. It's pretty subjective to say if it's a nuisance. Some people think any light that shines however
Yes, not.
little is a nuisance, and other people could look at a spotlight and not think it was a nuisance. and it is.
But even if somebody were to complain, it would be to the zoning enforcement officer
That's
who would
right.
rule on that.
Yeah.
As he would on many of these others, which I find are also have less than,
They all are, yeah.
standards. They're all
As Paul pointed out, two
ambiguous.
wrongs don't make a right, so yeah.
It's easier for the building inspector if there is
Standard.
it's a standard.
Yeah.
So we don't get sued.
Do you think that this is going to create liability for the town?
Well, that's the problem. If there's no clear standard, it's just what's a nuisance. Now you've got a trial over whether something's a nuisance, which you already could have under common law anyway, but you have it now as a zoning enforcement matter, and the town's in the middle of it. I don't know how that helps the town.
So based on your experience at the Board of Appeals dealing with the zoning issues, you think this isn't ready for?
Yeah, well, the lighting issue has come up before, and Elliot knows that because he sometimes brings it up, and it comes up in the context of obnoxious or offensive. So to add the word,
Lighting is a list of items that
lighting
could cause that.
as being obnoxious or offensive, I mean, people have already alleged lighting's a nuisance, lighting's in violation of our bylaws. So I'd just like to see a clearer standard, or at least have the planning board, maybe we should put it on hold.
Let's
and
hold
have the
that.
planning board
Hear a
think
little
about
more
it.
and talk.
Yeah.
I hope you raise those issues on
Yeah,
Saturday.
and I did at the hearing, but I'll read
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I think that's good, so people can hear it. Elliot, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, I would hope that you would support this.
Okay.
We're trying to support it with a better standard, Elliot, that's.
Well, you can have a standard. Everyone has a different outlook on things, and what's obnoxious to you, or me particular,
Yeah.
is not obnoxious to you, particularly if you live 3 miles away, and it's not shining on your house. So,
No, I respect.
I
hear what
have
you're
about
saying.
9 lights from the goddamn Sherborn
Now, Elliot.
shining on my house. I've complained about it for years, and they still shine on. And I have probably another 10 lights in my neighborhood, the business district, shining on my house
Yeah.
that I say are obnoxious.
Yeah.
And you don't care, you live 3 miles away, you're back in the woods. This old grouch downtown, you can't, anything.
I've never heard anybody say that about you.
The moon bothers me, Elliot, I don't know who to complain to.
Some nights, I wonder, is that my neighbor's light? I said, no, there's a shadow on my chimney. No, that's the moon. How about that?
We'll get behind you guys
So
on that one.
we just have to wait a week or so and it'll go away. But at any rate, these lights shine on. We also have laws that say they'll be shut off at 10 o'clock at night.
And we already have that one.
And
all right.
Yeah, the power goes out, the lights instead of going off at 10 o'clock, now they go off at 2 a.m.
Yep.
And it's,
No, light's an issue.
anyone should be able to complain and get some sort of action.
Yeah.
I think my point is
Yeah,
taken,
yeah,
and I'll...
yes. We're fine. We'll move on. Article
Just for
26.
sure, but not Times Square.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Elliot, but I think the idea was to see if we can make it better.
Well, you can't put a
A little more objective than subjective if we can. and I
You
think
can't
that's
put a
the
value
goal
on
here.
this. When they open the Sherborn Inn, they says, oh, we'll have decibel meters around. I said, I don't need decibel meters to tell me whether I object to the noise coming across the street.
All right,
And the same with lights.
all right. Gotcha. All right, Article 27, the floodplain district.
Move approval.
26, I think.
26, I'm
We
sorry.
have to adopt this or we're going to lose insurance.
Yeah, the point, the only concern I have is to the extent there's a resident who has a mortgage who's now in this floodplain, and their bank says, you gotta pony up for flood insurance.
Congress, the
I
state
think
They're trying to eliminate
I
that.
think they're in it, whether they're in it or not. I mean,
Yeah.
Whether we approve these or not,
Yeah,
they're still in the
right,
flood.
okay. so-
Someone called in a talk show within the last 2 or 3 weeks I was listening to, and they came into a floodplain
Yeah.
by statute. And I forget now the details, but this fellow said, I can't get insurance now that I'm in the floodplain, and I'm kind of wiped out. So it's a very
It can be costly.
sticky
Yeah, okay,
situation.
but we've been moved, I think we've seconded, so all in favor? Yay. Yeah. Article 27 is free cash, that's a hold until we know where the numbers wind up. Increase in the stabilization fund, I think we can hold until we see where the numbers wind up, but I am gonna suggest, as I suggested to advising, no, this is to the regular stabilization fund, so I'm gonna recommend we move 100,000 to the stabilization fund, or consider that, depending on how much free cash there is available. And that depends on how much the supplementals are, that depends on what money they use of free cash for capital items and so forth. So, but I'm gonna continue to make the point to advisory to consider that, and it is Board of Selectmen, there, that we technically own that one. So
so
if there's
you don't
cash
wanna-
available, I'd like to see us put a little bit aside, another 100 grand, into the regular stabilization fund, which we haven't touched in a long time. Separately, they're taking the OPEB stabilization fund, which right now has 500,000 in there, in the next two articles, and they also have an appropriation of 100,000 in the budget.
All of which
So-
I support.
Yeah, 200, so they're taking, their position right now, as of last night, was 200,000 out of the OPEB stabilization fund into the trust fund, and the OPEB liability trust fund, and the appropriation of 100 going in there, so 300 will go in the liability
So I
trust fund.
support that. Can we
So
vote to approve those two
Yeah,
articles?
well, I just want to hear if there's other alternative conversations about the amounts,
Okay.
you know.
All right,
so-
so if you want to hold
This
that-
doesn't say an amount, so if we support
Yeah, I
it, we
support-
just kind
I
of support it
support.
in general, but not,
Yeah, I support all of these in general.
but should we hold until we know what the numbers
Yeah,
are?
I think it's best to just talk
Yeah.
numbers. you
What
know.
was the number you said, Peter, on the employment, the OPEB stabilization?
OPEB stabilization, they're moving 200,000 out of that and into the liability trust fund, and the amount of the appropriation of 100,000, they would put into the OPEB liability trust.
So
fund.
minus 200 under Article 29, plus 300 under Article 30?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And I don't know that technically they'll be minus 200.
I know, but I know what you mean.
But, yeah.
So they would say nothing, they would
That's
deposit
correct.
nothing, and then they would move
Just
300
where the
from
money comes from, they're
Yep.
going to say 300 and it's 100 from appropriation to And then the last one, Article 31, is the Pulte property, 90 Maple Street.
We were
We
gonna
would want to
fix-
hold on that.
We were going to fix the citation.
And we're fixing, and that's, yeah, we still have to fix the citation.
So out of 31 articles, I was able to get at least one citation.
Good job.
I'm batting 1 for
We have one
31.
more article, though, the article Paul
And
raised.
Paul's, that's right, yeah, which I support.
I support also.
So we,
And I don't support,
so we'll call that article yet to be determined, the numbers will change, but we'll call it the new one.
Move approval.
And I second, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Great. You all right, David?
Yeah,
Keep
just,
up with us? Trying to keep up with us?
David's on 17, he's almost there.
The problem is I am too. No, what do you need?
On the proposed new capital item,
Where, yes.
We're holding those, right? Oh.
No,
you got eight?
yeah, we're holding number
We approved
8.
some,
you approved it with a to-be-decided amount.
Yeah, to be determined.
So we're holding that.
no, we didn't approve.
We approved putting it on the warrant,
added
adding
it
it
to
to the
the,
warrant.
but we didn't vote to approve it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's a, that's
That was a
not
hold.
yes, that's a hold.
okay.
That's a-
Yeah.
All right,
Well, that was, we accomplished something.
that's
All
right.
So are we done?
Yes, so I would encourage you to take a gander at the model that we've received, unless a new one pops out tomorrow, before Saturday, just because
Yes.
that's where the money, lots of the money goes. All right? Now, what else do we have? We have,
Executive session.
we have a warrant to approve. We have to talk about future meetings. So we have advisory on the 22nd Saturday. We have advisory on the 24th, which would be Monday evening, if necessary. Then we have next Thursday. And would next Thursday for an agenda item, would we include ballot questions?
Yes.
We have a draft.
Draft agenda. Okay, good.
Oh, I like this.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Now we're cooking with gas, huh? All right, so, so consideration of public safety, that'll be an interesting one. That's the overarching public safety committee, right?
Yeah, that'd be one.
Ballot questions, good. Schools,
Is there a number
Is
of
20
issues?
minutes enough to talk about that public safety committee, do you think?
Yeah, I
David?
think so.
Okay.
Maybe not?
maybe not. We'll fine tune the timing and
Okay.
so forth, but,
Where do you
Yeah.
see that on? I don't see that.
That's
620,
under
TA
TA
report.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay. So the ballot questions.
Oh, you know what we needed to add?
Somebody coming in?
What, were we adding,
Zoning Board of Appeals appointment.
Yes,
CBA appointment.
good catch.
Unless,
Was that what you were thinking of or something?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you pointed at me, so that's what I came up with.
with the water committee?
Well,
We're meeting first and then.
we don't really
come
have
back
anything to do on that yet, right?
yeah.
We're still on the invitation stage, but we'll get
Yes.
going.
Okay.
And I would just put the placeholder of discussion of advisory public hearing, budget, warrant
Recap.
articles or something, you know, to the extent we want it. And you have executive session as a placeholder right now, depending on if something's happening here. Okay.
You said you want to approve the warrants, so.
Well, yes, and I'll second that for discussion. I'll just say it has to be subject to TA review, okay, and approval. One thing that came out, three questions I would ask David in reviewing this. So I just asked him, and this is the time because it came up during review. The schools have a $5,500 purchase of Dell computers, about 10 of them. So in this other thing, maybe there's an opportunity to piggyback, not with their purchase order, but somehow their purchasing power or something. I mean, they're buying different stuff.
Well, yeah, I'll check to see, but it depends on if they went through Dell, government
Yeah.
purchasing,
Yeah,
or if they
just
went
point
through
it out.
like the
They're
tech.
buying Dell computers, you're buying Dell computers. Hopefully, we're
Some of the
taking
things that
advantage
they
of
buy
the-
through restrict to the use of only
Yeah.
the school,
Yeah,
must
I don't-
remember.
Here's another question, which is, just came to me because I look at this, we're buying a lot of salt, and I remember we bought more salt. I just wonder if we somehow have increased our use of salt. That's just a question to explore.
Well, I think I mentioned it in one of the meetings. I had just found that there was an actual salt policy that,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
We're supposed to use calcium chloride wherever we can.
yes. But there, there's a way that there's supposed to be like tests done, and then once you hit a certain level of salt, it's supposed to be reported to CM&D, and then they cut it back and switch to, another product. So there's a whole process that's hasn't been.
Well, it's just a simple question of Ed, whether he's somehow, I mean, we've had a lot of storms, we've had a lot of need for treatment and so forth.
Yeah, there was
And we've
one-
been buying a lot of salt, but maybe it's not salt, maybe it's something else, but
That's salt.
it's salt, and
Yeah.
it is just a fair question. Geez,
Right.
have you somehow
Oh, I definitely
increased
said,
the mix?
there was one day
the
that
meter
I
up, you
told
know?
Ed, there was,
Some
I don't want to
spots
have the
need-
problems that
Yeah,
we'd had in the previous storm.
yeah.
What happened with
No.
beet juice?
But you're still looking at it.
Okay.
Do you think you'd be okay with the roads being purple?
Why not?
We'd
As
be,
long as they're dry and clear.
as long as
Yes,
it doesn't
right.
stick to the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a,
Come on, it's vegetable, right? You can had your vegetables
Yeah,
filled
why not?
that way. Yeah?
but there was a group of,
Just had a V8.
there was a group of citizens who spent a lot of time and effort coming up with a salt policy. And I remember one portion of it was that we discovered that when a salt truck was going through an intersection, it would go through the intersection, put the salt down, then go around, then go through the intersection from a different direction. and then the
Now
same
you
salt
got
down.
twice.
So you get all this buildup of salt at that intersection. And then the wells of the people around there started getting contaminated with too much salt.
Yeah.
And wetlands were being killed, and plants don't react well to being doused with salt, so shrubbery was dying. So we had this committee that put that stuff together. We're supposed to be adhering to that.
Yeah, well, I can say that we're not. That policy is a good policy, and it's actually more favorable to using salt, because it sets a standard that you can go up to, and once you hit that level, then you have to start backing off. It's less restrictive than what I was led to believe, when I started.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So I want to work with conservation to identify some locations that would be prime areas for testing, and we'll test those routinely every year.
Well,
And then we can
my
tell the
question is
state.
just as simple, like if I put fertilizer down, I use 3.5, sometimes I jack it up to 5, so.
Right.
Are the trucks going from 3.5 to 5? Did they do that, or?
Only
maybe
on
they
that
did
one.
on a couple of occasions?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was, there was an early morning called in at like 4 a.m. icing thing.
Yeah, okay. The other
Every
thing,
snowstorm is different.
no, we've been challenged for sure this year.
Every
Absolutely
season
challenged.
is different, so
Absolutely
it's
challenged.
a tough.
Yeah,
Can we take
okay.
a vote on the warrant?
Yes, so take a motion to approve, subject to,
You went through all your notes,
TA.
but never got to the vote.
okay, all in favor? Great. And then, do I have a script? I don't think I have a script. So I will move to adjourn to executive session to discuss an employment contract pursuant to General Laws 30A, Sections 21A2, non-union contract negotiations, where doing it in public session would be harmful and jeopardize the negotiations. And we're not going to return to open session, and I'll accept a motion. And a second, okay, and I'll do a roll call. Mr. Jaimo?
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Caruso, aye. Mr. Jones? All right, we're adjourned. Have a great evening, and let's move to the other room.
Okay.
Good job.